If you've already watched the first part of the story, skip to the time on screen. I added a short recap so you remember where we left off. Let me know in the comments if you want this for future parts too. Love y'all, enjoy the video. This is the sucker of the hour. A little trash blonde villain gets dragged into a game where every OP character is a thick girl, like Marvel rivals with that ninja babe. But in Marvel, if you have sweaty balls, you can still win. Here our MC barely has a chance. Some might say this is terrible because my bro gets tormented by this maid girl, by this ice princess, and by this Kirito wannabe girl, who is technically the real MC. When I say tormented, I mean the good, kind, and the even better kind. Yeah, bro, you know the deal. Choose your pill, hero wannabe trash loser, or Chad blonde villain who gets stepped on by mommy maid, then reaches out to grab. Io, better stop before the video gets taken down. Now unfortunately for bro, he can see that in the future, he'll get locked in a dungeon and become the mechanical bull, toy of one of the girls, drained every single day. I feel so bad for him that I'd offer myself to switch places. I'm a real hero. Also, his father went off to war and said that when he comes back in 1 year, he had better have put a baby in the maids because they need new heirs. That's what I call running a family like a business. And with all that going on, our boy, who's pretty weak compared to the crazy girls in this world, has to survive the wrath of the real MC, who's absurdly OP. Can he pull it off? Doesn't matter, because we're here to see thick babes. Let's get it. It all starts in the castle, home of the Campbell family. The main guy starts wondering, wait, did Meg just die in a car crash? I mean a car accident. Did I travel through time or something? This decor looks kind of European, and that face in the mirror looks like me when I was 17 or 18. Except that makes no sense, because he's much older now. He takes another look and surprise. Yeah, he really was good looking when he was younger, before becoming a broke, overweight mess. Just as he concludes he's getting old, and having those reincarnation dreams because his life turned out miserable, he grabs a small knife and says he needs to confirm it, and blood gushes out. He says it's just a small cut, but it hurts like hell, so he licks fingers and says this damn thing feels way too real. And suddenly memories come flooding in. The guy he reincarnated into is named Moon Campbell, a poor guy who lost all his titles, became a beggar, and was abandoned by his family. His father even warned him never to step onto their land again, or he'd be killed without mercy. Apparently, he committed some terrible crime. He covers his face and says, "Damn, I thought this was a coincidence, but it isn't." Unfortunately, he transmigrated into that mentally challenged guy's body, the blonde-haired villain who wasn't even an elite or anything. He used to read this story for a long time. It was called The Protagonist, the strongest woman in history, and yeah, the title already tells you what's coming. It's a cliché story. The only difference is that the main character is a woman. Her family abandons her, then she goes out into the world, improves her skills, slays monsters, and becomes a hero. At the start of the game, that blonde dude, Moon Campbell, is one of the early nuisances, sending people after her, but she ends up leveling like crazy. In the end, his plan gets wrecked. He's kicked out of the mansion, exiled, and becomes a beggar. 20 chapters later, no one even remembers his name. Reincarnating is great and all, but not into the body of a character who's just a stepping stone for the protagonist's growth. Just then, someone knocks on the door. He tells them to come in. A maid enters the room, asking what happened. He says it's nothing serious, and she tells him the clothes for tomorrow's banquet have already arrived. He tells her to just leave him there. But then she notices something strange and asks if he got hurt. He says it was just an accident, nothing to worry about. But then $10 if you can guess what she does next. Yup, she kneels down and helps clean the blood. She's seriously motivated, definitely deserves a raise. And she even asks him to please stop hurting himself like that. The guy blushes like crazy, thinking he's definitely going to remember this moment. Then she spins around like a top, says she's leaving, and tells him to take care of himself. As soon as she closes the door, he's sitting there, blushing like an idiot, mumbling that this world is perfect. He's covering his face and flailing side to side, completely over the moon about having such an admirable maid. Obviously, he's a hopeless otaku. Meanwhile, outside the room, the maid thinks it's strange that he said thank you. Of course, he must have been a total jerk before reincarnating. Now our guy wonders how someone born handsome into a noble family, with a cute maid too, still thought provoking the protagonist was a good idea. The main reason he was exiled was apparently because he tried to drug the third princess or something like that. But now that he knows where that path leads, he just has to avoid it completely. To keep this cushy life, the first thing he needs to do is be careful with the ceremony where all the chaos begins. That hits him. The maid with the thick thighs already brought the banquet outfit and said it's happening tomorrow. At that point, the guy rolls around in bed, calling out to the system, the goddess, grandpa, the monk, and anyone who might give him a cheat or some kind of power-up. Problem is, if the banquet is tomorrow, that means he's already done a lot of terrible stuff to the protagonist. He just hopes she doesn't go overboard, like stomping on his face or something. But if she does, hopefully she's wearing black tights and takes her time. Clearly the guy has, well, refined taste. But now he's made up his mind. Tomorrow, the moment he sees her, he'll run straight toward her, drop to his knees 3 times, and beg for forgiveness. Suddenly, something smacks him on the head, and he turns around, yelling to know who the hell did that. That's when he sees a small book on the bed. He immediately wonders if his cheat has arrived. He grabs it and says, finally God hadn't abandoned him. He wasn't destined to be a loser forever. Now it's time to gain infinite knowledge and change his fate with his own hands. But when he opens the book, there's absolutely nothing inside. He starts wondering if it needs some kind of special activation. Stories usually take place in Europe. What's up with that? Right then the book attacks, making his head bleed, and a drop of blood falls onto the page. A dark aura rises, and he starts wondering what's going on. His vision begins to blur, and suddenly he finds himself with his hands and feet restrained. His neck too, he's completely beaten up. Slowly he opens his eyes and wonders where he is. This creepy girl appears and says he slept for quite a while. He says his whole body hurts. She simply says pain is inevitable when learning a lesson. He has no idea how sad she really is. She never wanted him to end up like this, but he's been acting cruel and selfish. He should be causing pain for others instead of showing tolerance and making everyone hate him. That was the only way he would belong solely to her. But recently his heart started changing, and that wouldn't do. Still, no matter how long it took, she would purify him of the love she had, and then they would be together forever. Then, bam, a barrage of stabs, and he wakes up back in his room. Looks like the protagonist might actually like him better as a villain. But if he goes down that path, his life becomes a complete mess. And if he doesn't, it's already a mess. So what's the guy supposed to do? He starts wondering if that was a dream from the past, or maybe a glimpse of the future. After all, the whole vision started when his blood touched the book. Maybe it was a future warning triggered by the wrong choice. When he looks at the book again, it says, "Do not alter fate." He understands right away. If he went through with kneeling 3 times and begging for forgiveness, that would have led to that outcome. After being tied up and tortured in that vision, getting kicked out of the family and becoming a beggar suddenly doesn't seem so bad. Now he's fired up. He's a modern, intelligent guy, and he can use everything he knows to change not only his fate, but the fate of the entire country. Besides, being an aristocrat isn't even that great. They're all trapped in this tiny little territory. He's going to take control of his destiny with his own hands and stop relying on any of that. That said, there he is, already sitting down, eating delicious meat and telling himself how amazing a privileged life really is, and that losing all this would truly suck. Sitting beside him is Noyce Campbell, his mother, who honestly looks 18, one hell of a woman, and she tells him he looks really happy today. His father, Lon, says he's probably just excited about tomorrow's ceremony, since it'll likely be one of the most important moments of his life. He goes along with it and says yeah, trying not to seem suspicious. Meanwhile, his mom says she can't let him attend that banquet, otherwise all the noble girls will be all over him. Lon replies that's impossible since he has Princess Celia, and any girl who tries anything will definitely make her jealous. His mom acts all cute and says she doesn't like this Celia girl. She isn't cute at all and doesn't deserve her son. Now our boy just sits there confused, wondering why his parents have so much faith in him when he was such a jerk. And who the heck is this Celia? That's when it hits him. She's the 3rd princess, the one he tried to drug, which makes her one of the people who will bring disaster into his life. In the original story, everyone liked her, but here classic Sundre, cold outside, warm inside, got it. Moon feels down, realizing his parents actually seem like good people. He really was kicked out because he acted like a total bastard, and his dad just didn't want a rotten son. That only motivates him more to change his fate. Even if it's risky, he doesn't want to drag his whole family down with him. The real reason his family gets ruined is that people believe his father ordered him to kill the princess as an act of betrayal. So he probably needs to take the blame himself and make sure nobody else gets involved. Problem is, the ceremony is already tomorrow, and there's no time to change too much. What he finds strange is that if the event is so close, why doesn't he know anything about the drug he's supposed to use? Is someone going to hand it to him? What's actually going to happen? While he's trying to figure all this out, a maid appears, and he accidentally bumps into her. He falls awkwardly, saying he spilled the madam's black tea. When he asks if she's okay, of course she flinches, thinking she's about to get yelled at. She sees the tea spilled on him and immediately rushes to clean it up. The moment she notices the mess, she's already convinced her life is over. She'll get fired and probably be eating dog food on the street by tomorrow. Protagonist realizes his reputation really does precede him, so he tells her not to worry and says he won't punish her. What's this? The guy's smooth too. He pulls her into a hug and tells her to relax. She's completely confused, trying to figure out what the young master is doing. Honestly, same here. What's with those hands? Then Anne shows up and calls out to him. He asks the blonde for her name and she says it's Noelle. He tells Anne to take care of her, but Anne says she and Noel still need to focus on preparing for tomorrow. They can't slack off now. He simply tells her to hire more people to help. I mean, come on. How does a mansion this huge not have enough staff? Anne just bows and says, all right then. And our smooth talker buys himself some time as always while he walks off. Noel says it's strange. The young master never let anyone help him before because he always said people were dirty, so it's weird for him to suggest that now. Anne adds that she's noticed something strange too. Maybe it would be best to move the plan forward before things get out of control. Back in the guy's room, he's searching through every box. A poison that could take down the third princess has to be some high-level, insanely expensive hallucinogenic potion. That's when he finds a black market card. Clearly, it must have been used to buy whatever she ended up drinking. The scene shifts to the capital's commercial district. Later that night, the protagonist tells the others to wait there while he goes to buy a few things. He moves through the area mostly unnoticed, trying to remember the route from the story. Eventually, he reaches a door and says sewer rats. He shows his credential, and the guy welcomes him as a guest and tells him to come in. This is the Leopold Black Market. Potions, ingredients, magical creatures, even synthetic ones. And of course, the classic setup, slaves. One of the protagonist's allies was actually bought from this place. But that's secondary because right now he's got bigger problems. He enters one of the rooms and is greeted by someone wearing a cat mask, who immediately asks what he's looking for. They have every kind of potion. He says he wants something colorless, odorless, especially effective on mages, and able to knock them out for hours. He's probably going to buy it and use it, but not actually do anything to the girl. Now I'm confused too. He's trying to follow the story, but I honestly don't know what he's planning anymore. The person in the cat mask says he must be looking for a real fun time. If he wants, she can even recommend a few slaves. He says he's leaving, but she stops him and says to wait, she'll get the potion. Moon says there's no way to tell whether this is a man or a woman, and that's fair. Whoever drew this character made it tough. It's scary to even guess, so let's keep it neutral. The human being grabs a potion while our protagonist thinks about how incredible that body is. Most likely, it's a stunning woman with a powerful figure running this whole underworld operation. At that moment, the door opens again, and someone else walks in. Judging by the black tights, you already know what time it is. Does our boy have an eye for details like that too? The person says they're here to buy an extremely strong drug that targets mages and leaves no trace. The seller is confused. She rarely sells this potion, and now suddenly everyone wants it. Moon is taken aback. He didn't think women had that kind of taste too. He feels bad for whoever is about to go through that whole ordeal, but there's nothing he can do to help. Then the woman tosses 2 vials onto the table and says that's the one everyone has been looking for. Even though the liquid is brightly colored, mixing it with wine makes it completely unnoticeable. Just a few drops are enough to knock out an elephant for 2 to 3 hours. He's stunned by how strong it is. The masked girl says if he doesn't believe it, he can try it himself. He'll just have to sleep on the floor for 3 hours and still pay full price. The only catch is the cost, 130,000 Amelias, the local currency. The masked woman nearby says she doesn't have Amelias, but she has another way to pay. She shows a letter, and the seller says it's hard to accept something with that kind of value as payment. She reads through it and asks if what's written is really true. The mysterious figure says the seller can use her own skills to verify it. Mysterious or not, let's be real, it's probably Anne. Who else would it be? The seller says, all right, the potion is hers. The masked woman takes it, thanks her, and starts heading out. Meanwhile, Moon simply says to charge it to his card. The seller hands him a bonus potion and says, if he combines it with the other one, the experience will be way better. He thanks her, tucks it into his bag, and asks about the information the other woman gave her. But the seller, clearly not too worried about honesty, says they're old friends. And if he wants that information for a fair price, it'll cost him 900,000 Amelias. He gives her a look and turns away, saying he's not interested. That scam artist was trying to charge him 7 times the price right to his face. No way he's falling for that. He's from the modern world, so he knows a trap when he sees one. As soon as the door closes, the seller says she hopes to see him again soon. Then she takes off her mask, and of course it was a woman. Now she knows exactly what's about to happen at the mansion, and she's wondering who she'll sell all that information to. Obviously, the most interesting move would be selling it to both sides and stirring up total chaos. Could she be the protagonist? She definitely has that look. Next night, over at the Campbell Palace, it's packed with clueless nobles wandering around, and there's our guy right in the middle. A mustachioed gentleman appears with his third daughter, saying it would be wonderful if she met young Mr. Campbell. She glances at our boy and starts trembling, then dashes off, dress fluttering, yelling that her mother was calling her. Honestly, that reaction looked more like fear than anything else. Her father apologizes, saying she's a bit shy, and Moon just says it's okay. That's when he starts noticing that none of the girls seem happy to see him at all. His reputation has clearly taken its toll. Still, his father, Lon, places a hand on his shoulder and says he's impressed by how he's been behaving. He's really stepping up, and tonight, he'll stop being a boy and become a man of the Campbell family. Moon thanks him and says he'll do his best. Suddenly, someone at the entrance calls for silence. The third in line to the throne of the Leopold Empire is about to arrive, blessed with the purity of snow and known as the Ice Goddess. The third princess, Celia, who looks suspiciously like Paimon from Genshin Impact. Bond says he's going to mingle with the other guests and asks Moon to take care of her. Moon steps right in, calling out to the princess, saying it's been a while. He compliments her appearance, and she even has those little sparkles in her hair like Paimon. My God, the girl has real presence. She thanks him for the compliment. He's acting sweet and gentle, and she's starting to think something feels off. Then he says she must be tired from the trip, suggests she rest for a bit. As she walks past, all the nobles bow to her, and she's thinking, what's up with this guy today? He's being way too polite. At that moment, Campbell seems to overhear people talking about some illegitimate daughter who apparently dueled her husband. I'm kind of confused too. It seems people dislike her because she's illegitimate, divorced, and now wants to qualify as an heir. The rest of the party tells them to stop saying things like that. It's crazy talk. Ah, of course, right? Who arrives now but the protagonist, the main character of this world? Ariel Bugard, the black-haired one on the left. Honestly, she's pretty basic, but it makes sense. If you think about it, protagonists are usually standard. Black hair, plain face, and there she is, acting normal and greeting Mr. Moon. He's awkward and replies that he's doing great, then welcomes her. But then, out of nowhere, this big guy steps in and asks how she can speak like that to the young master. She was being a little casual, and our boy tells the guy to shut it, saying it's fine, she can speak however she wants. She's already been polite enough. At that point, she practically has a mini meltdown. She's wondering why this guy, who used to treat her like some awful, illegitimate daughter, suddenly knows how to pronounce her name. Her friend watches Ariel in confusion until someone reaches out a hand and calls for Miss Leah. The other girl is startled because Campbell knows her full name, Miss Leah Angel. He reaches out to take her hand, but Ariel slaps it away and tells him to stop scheming. She grabs him and tells him to listen. She's only here because of his father, so he better not try anything shady. If he even thinks about doing something awful to her or Leah, she'll make sure he never walks out alive. With that, she walks away. I already like her. She's playing the righteous hero role, but we both know she wants him to cause trouble. Moon thinks that, just as expected, dealing with the protagonist is going to be rough, but he says he doesn't really care. Once the night ends, she'll go her way and he'll go his, and they'll never see each other again. Not long after, he gives his speech. Apparently it's his birthday. Who knew? Looks like he turned 18. Everyone claps and calls him amazing. Guy almost has another episode, but now it's time to get down to business. He looks around and spots the Paimon lookalike relaxing by the mirror. He walks up, introduces himself, and apologizes, saying he hopes he isn't being rude. He asks for the honor of a dance. Oh my God, does he think he's royalty now? She accepts, of course. That girl, though, is packing serious firepower in that outfit. Whatever accessories she's wearing look ready to burst. Meanwhile, the nobles are stiff and awkward, glancing around, and the protagonist is off to the side eating cake while watching him dance with the third princess. She compliments his steps, and he says he's still a beginner. She notices how much he's changed and says he's finally acting like a noble. What she finds odd is how his earlier dance invitation went. Warrior, I shall grant you the mercy of a dance. Be grateful. He awkwardly tells her to forget that and leave it in the past. The music plays. Let's go, people. We're deep in the plot now. They're dancing, she's praising him, the usual stuff, and then, what's this? He slides in close behind Paimon. Is he calling for backup, adventurer style? That's when she says they need to have a private conversation. She already knows this marriage is just a political arrangement between their families. He replies that if she wants to cancel it, they can work together to make that happen. She pulls back slightly and says they'll talk more about that later. Then she asks, how about they head to his room right now? Ma'am, he's caught off guard. But it's too late, she's already pulling him away. Off to the side, two mischievous maids watch everything unfold. They're whispering that the girl went off with that mentally challenged master. You know what word they're thinking. They say they need to act fast because that's Lionheart territory now. Back in the room, he offers her a drink. She politely declines, saying she can't have even a single drop. Now Moon is in real trouble because he has no idea how the original protagonist actually won this girl over. On top of that, he still needs to give her the potion, but if she won't drink anything, he has no clue how to pull it off. He asks what she likes to drink, and she says coffee, but then quickly changes and offers to have black tea instead. Turns out black tea or wine are the only options available there. She looks a bit puzzled, but he waves it off and says he'll go fetch. Meanwhile, she sits there confused. He seems way too excited about making that tea. Obviously, he's back there slipping in the potion. Honestly, I thought it was the sleeping potion, but suddenly he says this one drop makes someone fall in love. On top of that, there's another vial he decides not to use, because he's not sure about its effects. Just then, she calls for him, startling him, and he quickly turns around, saying it's almost ready. But oh boy, during that quick spin, some potion spills all over the place, and so does the other vial. Turns out it was an aphrodisiac. He's relieved that none of the potions leave any magical trace. That is until he looks down, and realizes a big chunk of the potion hit the floor. His original plan was to sell a little of it for cash, but now, that's out the window. As he brings the tea over, we see someone peeking through the window. Paimon, well, the third princess, comments that the Campbell family's black tea looks strangely red and shiny. He says it's an extremely rare herb from the East, a true delicacy. She goes along with it and tells him to drink first. Our boy goes, "What, Paimon? Don't you trust me, Moon Campbell, the honest young noble?" But she just replies that servants should always taste the drink first. That's basic noble etiquette. When he lifts the cup to take a sip, though she snatches it from his hand and says his looks better, they should switch. Oh, one little sip later and she's already looking woozy. I thought it was going to be the aphrodisiac, but no, she wobbles, drops the cup, and passes out right onto the sofa. Moon thinks it was a smart move to make sure both cups were dosed. According to the original story, the protagonist should burst into the room and try to kill him any second now. He needs to look suspicious, so he lowers her skirt a bit, unbuttons part of her outfit, takes off his shirt, and says it looks perfect. Anyone walking in would assume exactly what he wants them to. Looks like he's really aiming to be condemned this time. The only problem is, nothing happens. Time passes. Half an hour goes by and still nobody shows up. That's strange, because in the original story she storms in to deal with the situation right away. So what changed? In the story, the protagonist is walking through the halls when someone bumps into her and spills something on her dress, which is how she ends up walking in on this mess. That's when he remembers. Maybe Noelle was the one who spilled the tea, but earlier he told Anne to let Noelle rest, which must have thrown off the entire chain of events. Oh, look who's opening her eyes. While he's still locked into his master plan, the girl is getting up. Turns out the aphrodisiac must have landed in the cup she snatched from him. Now he stands there confused, wondering why the room suddenly feels cold. Bam, a hand grabs his face, and a blast of freezing magic slams him to the floor. He begs Paimon to calm down, saying he can explain. She shuts that down, saying there's no need for explanations. Let's just say that. That's when he realizes something is wrong with this girl. He says he'll get a doctor. Too late, his wrists are already pinned. She murmurs that her body feels cold and his feels warm. He begs her to calm down, but nope, she dives in for a kiss. The guy is praying Ariel shows up to save him, because if not, this little act is about to become way too real. Speaking of the tough one, there she is, walking through the halls, annoyed that her dress is stained. Then she hears some strange sounds. That's when Anne appears and tells her this area is restricted. Ariel finds it odd, and Anne quickly offers to clean her dress since that's the issue. She casts a spell. The outfit becomes spotless, and Ariel is pretty impressed that even the maids here know magic. That's when one of the maids casually mentions something about a pachichi cake, saying it will be served at the party, and right away the protagonist lights up with joy, thanking her cheerfully. Anne gives a little smile, but then turns around with that classic evil look on her face. Of course Ariel isn't that dumb. Or wait, maybe she is. She senses something off, like the smell of blood in the air, but then brushes it off, saying she's in the Duke's mansion and won't get involved. Besides, she's confident Paimon can handle that spoiled brat on her own. Nothing beats cake, so she isn't worried. Nearby, those same shady maids wonder if Ariel was the target. The one with gray hair says no. She was targeted by a guy named Number 9, but she killed him, even though he was higher ranked. The darker-haired maid tells her to hurry, warning that if Campbell shows up, the mission could fail. But her partner says not to worry. She already checked the situation, and the action was in full swing. Meanwhile, our boy is a total wreck, scratched up and exhausted. What the hell happened? Wait, nothing actually happened. He was just struggling to defend himself. And now Payman wakes up, puts a sword to his face, and demands his final words. He tries to calm her down, but she says he's going to the afterlife without saying another word. He starts panicking, because he's not even sure he'll reincarnate again. So he blurts out that his intentions came from true love. He's there, glowing with emotion, hoping the gods grant him a second chance, only to nearly get his neck sliced open. She coldly says he really is disgusting. He apologizes and asks her to chill, saying they didn't even go all the way. But she snaps back that he's filthy for even calling those actions sincere. If he had truly tried to win her over with real effort, maybe she would have accepted the marriage. But instead he chose the sleazy route, drugs and trickery. He tries to explain that he never meant to insult her. She cuts him off and orders him to kneel. Then suddenly, something on the other side of the door catches her attention. She grabs him by the neck, forces him to order everyone outside to leave. She throws him to the floor and tells him to get dressed and deal with whoever is at the door, because he's about to die anyway. The poor guy is stuck between three awful options: get killed by Celia, get hanged by the king, or end up trapped in some strange dungeon by a mysterious stranger. Wait, was that the protagonist? No, it looked like some other lunatic. Meanwhile, the other girl casually puts on her tights, saying he'll be dead any minute now. Moon opens the door to see who it is, and jumps. That same maid, saying they spent some time together and she brought food. He tells her to set it down and thanks her, but then he realizes he's never seen her before, so who is she? She says she was hired to help with the banquet, which he finds strange since no new maids or staff were supposed to be brought in. She agrees, and then suddenly dashes forward, knocking him down. In that instant, he realizes her real target is Payman. He leaps in with 2 knives, boom, an explosion, and when he looks up, at least the Ice Queen managed to defend herself. Payman demands to know if her idiot brother sent this assassin. The maid replies that unfortunately the details are confidential. In another room, we see golden orbs floating and whispering that the princess will be killed tonight at the Campbell estate, and that will be the end of someone. Not sure who this white-haired girl is, but she seems to know what's going on. Back in the room after the explosion, the maid backs off, admitting Payman's magic is far denser than expected. But her expression changes when she hears the incantation, because now Payman charges in with an ice spear and almost skewers her through the skull. While the two of them go at it in a brutal clash, our guy thinks when gods fight, mortals suffer. There's literally nothing he can do. He tries to open the door again, but it's sealed shut. They're still going hard. He hides behind something, realizing that damn maid must have cast some kind of barrier spell to keep everyone else out. And then he notices something. The plan to bring in outside staff was changed just yesterday. The only way a plan could have been prepared this far in advance is if someone was leaking information. He nearly gets hit by an attack, and all he can do now is pray that Paimon wins. But then, looking over at her, still standing fiercely despite being beaten up and gripping that spear, he starts wondering if that's actually a good thing. She might just kill him too. Honestly, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if she died here. No one would ever find out. That's when the maid says Payman really is a genius, and Payman replies that she can already feel someone using gravitational magic to disrupt her footwork, meaning someone else is involved. She demands the maid say who it is or both of them die here. The maid simply says that just as the rumors claimed, Payman truly is a genius. Payman snaps and tells her to shut up and talk. Who's behind this, if she wants any chance of being spared? But the maid says she isn't here to kill anyone, only to buy time. Suddenly the whole room starts shaking. That's when the gray-haired maid says the chamber is now fully sealed. The other one reaches into her pocket and pulls out a vial, declaring that she offers the lives of 100 children as a sacrifice to the Lord of the Melted World. Payman instantly recognizes it as the power of a dark god, but the maid just smiles and asks him to descend and suppress this world. Red energy floods the room, slamming Payman against the wall, and she knows that if those rats show up now, she doesn't stand a chance. The maid confirms it. They're rats? Sure, but tonight's real target is the princess. She goes in for another strike, but Payman grabs our protagonist's dagger and blocks the attack. The maid is shocked. This girl is bleeding, her tights torn, beaten, and exhausted, but she still avoided the vital points. Still, it doesn't matter. She has no blood magic left. One brutal kick to the ribs sends her crashing into the floor. But Payman is built different. She gets back up. The assassin says she'll make her death painless, and lunges for the finishing blow. Blood sprays, but guess what? Our boy jumps in front and tanks it. He literally takes the hit head on. No blocking, no deflecting, just pure courage. Guys, remember when our protagonist got stuck at the table? I'm pretty sure Anne was behind all this. I don't know how I missed the clues. 1 + 1 is 2. It was her. The damn girl's even on the story cover. Anyway, back to it. Anne calls his name, and Payman wants to know why. He's on the floor, spitting blood, and suddenly remembers when. The other maid opened the door earlier and told him he could leave. He considered running but realized he couldn't. So he calls out to Anne and asks what she thinks she's doing. Anne just tells the useless fool to stop getting in the way. But Payman walks past him and slashes her neck deep. The girl drops to her knees, and the Ice Princess simply declares that it's over. Now our boy is lying on the floor, barely clinging to life. Payman kneels beside him, realizing that if he jumped in to protect her, then he didn't hire these assassins. And what really shocks her is that he protected her without thinking. Because if she had died, no one would ever have known what he did. But he says none of that matters anymore. Just like she said, he chose to act like a true man. Damn, that one hurt. But of course, this is Payman we're talking about. She coldly says that, based on his pulse, he only has enough strength for maybe 3 more sentences. So he had better make them count. She'll pass his final message to the Duke. He reaches up, touches her face, and says that, truthfully, he's sorry. In the end, he really did have feelings for her. And his arm falls to the floor. Man, he went out like a legend. We know he's not actually going to die, but if he did, it would have been epic. Still, Payman isn't having it. She says that bastard doesn't get to die after apologizing like that, not after everything he did. She calls his name and tells him she won't accept that cursed apology. He's going to live and pay for every single thing. In the middle of the void, Moon floats there, dizzy and flushed with heat. Fortunately, even though he tried to make good choices, death was inevitable. At least this was better than following the game's storyline. This way, he got to choose how his life ended. But then a strange black energy appears beside him, and a panel forms, showing a progress breakdown for arrogance, envy, greed, shamelessness, and laziness. Looks like this is about the 7 deadly sins. He's at minus 90% in gluttony, 99% in envy, and 50% in arrogance. A few pages in the book flip over, and the thing tells him to keep trying for now. He asks why the damn book didn't show up before he died. Then he hears Igmao coming from it, and the scene shifts to the sewers. Ashes drift through the underground, and someone mutters that Campbell wasn't the real target. Suddenly a voice asks what she thinks she did to his son. Oh boy, the father shows up, radiating pure Lionheart aura. The assassin instantly starts shaking, and the dad calmly says he wasn't expecting visitors in his house. She wasn't invited, so what was she doing there? And she had better speak now. What did she do to his son? Man, the guy is usually nice, but right now he's a beast. Thinking back, our protagonist must have been happy he at least managed to grind some aura Sung Jinwoo style before dying. Or maybe not, because now we're back in the bedroom and Anne is sitting right next to him. That same Anne, who we now know is dangerous. He wakes up, and she's right there, asking if the young master is feeling any better. She asks if he needs a doctor, and as he tries to get up, saying he wants to use the bathroom, the pain in his chest hits hard, and he falls back into the soft sheets. He apologizes, saying his legs feel strangely weak. But now he needs to be careful. He can be kind to her, but he absolutely cannot trust her. She tells him his fiancée asked her to take care of him, so he should know she'll be staying close for the time being. Then she says she'll help him bathe and immediately starts going for his clothes. He quickly asks her to calm down, saying he just started feeling better. She says fine, she'll let him be independent, but still picks him up and carries him to the bathroom. He tells her to get out because he has things to take care of, and a little later, we're back in the room. Soon after, she tells him he slept for 3 whole days, and Princess Payman herself asked her to look after him. He barely survived, lost a huge amount of blood, and went without oxygen for too long. It was lucky Payman managed to use some magic to keep him alive. Hearing this, he realizes she probably didn't mention the potion incident. Then Anne says the princess did mention something important. What she actually reveals is that they uncovered the whole assassination plot. His father captured one of the attackers and tortured the truth out of them. The problem now is that they still have to apologize to the king somehow. His daughter was endangered inside their estate. But the strangest part is that he received no punishment at all. Apparently, Princess Payman said something to the king that led to him being forgiven. Man, I just summed up like 15 huge dialogue bubbles. This story really gets carried away sometimes. Our guy collapses back onto the bed, finally relieved. In the end, things didn't go that badly. But Anne immediately leans in close, asking why he looks so tense. What happened? Did something happen between him and the princess in that room? Remembering how she said she wanted something warm, he quickly denies it, saying there's no way he'd do something that bold. He'd get sliced to bits. Anne laughs and tells him to drink the medicine while it's still warm. But as soon as he takes a sip, he gags. It tastes horrible. He asks what the heck that stuff is. She explains it's a tonic to help him recover and rebuild his blood supply. Then we cut to 3 maids standing outside the door, whispering that whenever he eats something sour, he usually whips everyone. But today, he's acting really strange. They start wondering if they should report this to the madam, but he tells the 3 of them to stay put and not say anything. It was just normal medicine. Then he chugs the whole thing on the spot. The maids close the door, a little spooked, while he sits there looking confused, till he suddenly throws it all up. Man, it looked like he vomited straight crude oil. And the worst part is, he has to drink that thing 2 more times if he wants to fully recover. Anne casually mentions that if he wants, she can make him some pancakes and a little tea. She hands him a slice of cake and he thanks her, saying she's way too nice. He even says she deserves a raise. She lifts her skirt ever so slightly and says she appreciates the compliment, but she's off to finish the rest of her tasks. On her way out, she tells him to check the nightstand. There's a letter for him. But then he suddenly calls out to her, asking her to wait a second. During their earlier conversation, she mentioned he'd already taken that sour medicine 4 times. So is that possible if he throws up the moment it touches his mouth? She calmly answers that she puts sugar in her own mouth and passes it to him. He relaxes for half a second, until the image finally clicks in his head, and he realizes what happened. Now he's screaming into his pillow. But honestly, he's lying there all cozy on the bed, thinking that if something like that really happened with his big sis, life might not be so bad. But then he suddenly remembers he also kissed Payman. That's when he grabs the letter. It says she now considers him half a man. He sighs in relief. At least the crime situation was avoided. A little while later, his mom is all emotional with relief that he survived despite how dangerous everything got. He downplays it, saying it was nothing serious. She tells him to look in the mirror. There's a crater in his chest. He shrugs it off, saying it's just a scratch. As long as he survived, he's fine. His dad agrees, saying a scar like that is more like a medal. Thanks to him saving the princess, they were able to avoid the disaster this could have become. Now that I think about it, there isn't a single normal maid in this entire world. Even the one standing beside him now looks like a towering warrior. Moon says he wants to know everything that happened. His dad explains that the 3 assassins were captured. It took a lot of effort to make them talk, but eventually they got some information. Turns out they weren't trained death warriors or professional killers. They were followers of someone called the Withering King. Moon is confused. He doesn't remember that name ever appearing in the original story. His dad explains that he's some kind of ancient dark god responsible for countless horrors. If the price is high enough, his followers will take any job, even killing their own parents. But he tells his son not to worry. He's already ordered those people to be wiped out completely. The protagonist is stunned, and his mom reminds him that his father earned his current position through military merit. Bold as always, our boy says he's proud to be his son. It's well deserved. What he really wants to know now is whether they found out who's truly behind all this. His father, however, says no. All the captured hunters were bound by a strange curse. The moment they tried to say the person's name, they burst into flames and died instantly. The black market was completely wiped out, but no real evidence was found. Moon finds it interesting that his dad destroyed the black market, since that also happened in the original book. In the story, they killed his favorite. Wait, favorite for what? Furious, the father sent the royal knights, and they burned the whole city to the ground. That massacre lasted 3 months, and even the sewers ran red. At least this time it ended much faster. On the other hand, this was a major event for Ariel in the story, a huge growth arc for her. Classic protagonist moment. She would fight off tons of enemies, and her aura would evolve significantly. Now that development won't happen, and all of it changed just because he gave the maid 2 days off. Later that night, it seems everyone in the house just tells him to rest. But he doesn't have time to rest, because the story keeps flying off the rails. And the worst part is, the more things change, the less he can rely on what was supposed to happen in the original book. So he's put together a pretty complex plan. Survive, prevent that awful ending where he's tied to a table and violated, get stronger, and above all, stop trusting the book. He sits there thinking it through, then admits, nah, that doesn't really make sense. He needs to be much more cautious. The truth is, he still doesn't know exactly who that person from his vision was. It didn't seem like Ariel, and it wasn't Celia either. So who the hell was it? He drops onto the bed, realizing there's no point overthinking it. For now, the priority should be getting stronger. As the son of a duke, he has plenty of resources to build power. The only problem is that all of it is too conventional. And to make things worse, the original owner of this body spent an entire year at a prestige academy and came out with nothing but a trash-tier light spell. Still, he's the son of that powerful guy, so he has to have at least some talent, right? No way he's that weak. But even so, he knows he'll never reach the same level as the protagonist's crew. In this world, she's known as one of the chosen by the gods, completely out of reach for any normal person. Aemon is a great example. She received divine authority from a cold goddess, and she's been growing non-stop ever since. That kind of divine power isn't something you can overcome with effort alone. And then there's Ariel, who ends up blessed by insanely beautiful elemental spirits, not just one but more than 10. What a miserable life. What's truly miserable, though, is his situation. No matter how hard he trains, there's no way he can surpass someone like her. But that doesn't mean he'll just sit still. At the very least, he needs to be strong enough to defend himself, especially if Ariel ever comes after him. On the bright side, it seems he might be able to unlock new talents. With a snap of his fingers, the black book appears, but smacks him right in the crotch. He yells at the damn thing to stop appearing and hitting him every time. Then he hears a strange whistling sound, and the book opens and starts flipping pages. Now it's retelling everything that happened over the past few days, and he's annoyed because the thing is way too detailed. The way it's written, it makes him sound like some shady creep trying to do something awful to that poor girl. That's when he notices something odd. One word in the text, assassin, is glowing red. Suddenly, strange energy surrounds him, and he yells at the book to give him a warning next time. Now he finds himself in a new room. He looks around and quickly realizes it isn't the same dungeon from before. Maybe it's another space inside the book. But before he can figure anything out, someone approaches from behind. He turns around, and it's her again. The same girl who already hit him in the neck once. Boom, no time to react, lights out. He wakes up in bed again. The poor guy didn't even get a second to understand what happened. Dropped in one hit. The book stirs again, and when he looks, it shows his dagger combat skill is now at 1%, and Shadow Step is at 0.5%. Finally, he's discovered the actual combat abilities he has in this messed up world. He's fired up, saying he's sure this hack of his is going to be seriously overpowered. Later that night, he's lying in bed, mumbling about how he barely survived. Apparently, he lasted only 3 seconds in there. He decides to check whether his proficiency went up, and yeah, he gained 1% in both. Now he understands his skills really are broken. Any ability, maybe from enemies he defeats, gets recorded in the book and he can learn it. Or maybe it's just skills he sees? Hard to say. If it were based on sight, he should have already picked up that girl's ice ability. But maybe not, since that one came from a goddess. What he does know is that he's thinking about one massive skill right now, and it's a strong one. He's all excited, muttering that it's only a matter of time before that power and those dagger abilities are his. He doesn't know exactly how to gain proficiency fast, but he's about to find out. The book smacks him right in the face, and then boom, he takes a kick to the head, gets slashed across the chest, and ends up shredded. Meanwhile, outside his room, Anne knocks on the door and calls for him. When she walks in, she sees him under the covers and looks a little confused. Seeing that, she chuckles and says it's funny. He still sleeps the same way he did as a child, such a cute little boy. She uses a heat-preserving spell and says she won't wake him up just yet. Meanwhile, I'm just waiting for the plot twist where she turns into a total demon, because there's no way that sweet smile is genuine. As soon as she closes the door, he pops out from under the blanket, grumbling that the cursed book hit him right in the groin. Or maybe he's just getting hit by cheap tricks. Either way, he's determined to jump back into that dream until he finally beats her. The sun rises, and by then, he had already tried 185 times. That's next level mental resilience. He dies every single attempt, but now he's lasting 30 seconds. A wave of exhaustion hits him. He bumps into his tea, knocks it over. He crashes to the floor, completely drained. But finally he found a way to get stronger. The only problem? The pain of dying in that illusion feels very real. He thought he could game the system. The moment he died, he could just re-enter and ignore the fear. But nope, that was impossible. And now, after a full night of effort, it's time to see the results of all that grinding. His dagger technique has reached level 2, and Shadow Step is at 11%. Sure, that's still nowhere near assassin level, but just knowing he can evolve like this is already a huge deal. He's excited to test it out, so he activates Shadow Step and dashes across the room. Guy is practically leaving smoke trails, completely hyped, until he suddenly winces in pain. Turns out his foot got scorched. Now he's wondering how that assassin girl who attacked Paimon used this without flinching. And then it hits him, of course. These techniques are way too advanced for someone like him, just a tier 1 fighter. Back at the academy, he learned that to handle techniques like these, you need to channel ki through your body to reinforce it and reduce the recoil. That's something only level 2 warriors can do. So the plan for now is to find a proper teacher, preferably a hot one, of course. He's already daydreaming about Saint Maria from the academy. The only issue is that while he knows tons of powerful mages, he doesn't know many strong warriors. That's because in this world, magic is so ridiculously broken that nobody even bothers with martial arts. Why train punches and kicks just to eat a fireball to the face? Then it clicks. There is one warrior, probably the strongest in the whole story, or rather, not probably, definitely. That would be his dad. How the hell did he forget he had the final boss living in the same house? In the last 100 years, no warrior has had a greater impact on the world than him. 15, he was already a royal guard. At 20, he crushed rebel forces. By 27, he became a marshal of the empire. 32, he earned the title Lionheart King. He's never lost a fight. This guy is the real deal. Our boy is now thinking that Moon actually deserved the tragic ending he got. The guy had everything, a perfect life, and even a father who could have taught him everything, but he blew it. That's fine though, because from now on, he's going to ask his dad for personal training. I think the next line would be his dad refusing, but no. It's actually Anne knocking again, saying the master is looking for him. He walks out with her, saying it's perfect timing. He was just about to ask for the same thing. But outside he runs into 2 more maids. One of them wears glasses, and honestly might be the first thin girl in this whole story. Moon notices they call Anne the head maid, now, and compliments her. Guess she got promoted, huh? She explains that the other one, the previous head maid, resigned right after he woke up, so Anne ended up taking the position. He feels like maybe she got kicked out because of him, which is a little confusing. But she tells him not to worry. Even though she won't be the head maid anymore, she's still part of the household, and that's when his mother gives him this very peculiar hug. Alright, illustrator, maybe tone it down a bit, yeah? She's hugging him and saying she wants him to call her mommy 1,000 times. Then she presses his head to her stomach and tells him to listen. Turns out, yep, she's pregnant, which means he's going to have a little sibling. Right then his father walks in, telling her to take it easy. The boy just got out of bed after recovering, so maybe don't get too excited. A bit later, Moon is surprised to find out his dad is heading back to the front lines. Also, can we talk about the maid standing next to his father? She's massive. Clearly the Duke himself handled hiring all these women, and we can already tell what kind of taste this guy has. Refined? I'd say. He says that this afternoon he's returning to the front and will be gone for at least a month. During that time, Moon needs to stay in the capital. He turns to Miss Fey and says he's counting on her to look after everyone. Moon, however, tells him he shouldn't go. There are other generals in the empire, and besides, he's a duke. But his father explains that unfortunately, after nearly a decade of silence, things have gotten urgent. There are signs of abyssal demons near the borders. But Moon knows what this actually is, a distraction meant to divide human forces. The real invasion doesn't happen until 3 years from now, when Ariel finally rises as the savior. The problem is, even though his dad said a month, he'll probably be gone for 3 years, which means Moon's plan to learn swordsmanship from him is completely wrecked. A griffin and carriage arrive, and his father waves goodbye, telling his wife not to cry. He'll be back soon. He calls Moon over and says he was impressed. He risked his life to protect the Empress. That was the courage of a true knight, the kind of bravery that runs in Campbell blood. He reminds him of their family's symbol. The sword represents strength, and they are the blade of the Empire. The dragon symbolizes the enemy they must defeat. In other words, they are the weapon of the entire realm. At some point, every man in the family must step onto the battlefield. He's not sure if Moon will follow that path, but that doesn't matter. What matters now is that he has become a real man. Because of that, his father promises to invest every resource he never had in his youth, so Moon can become even stronger. Moon just stands there silently for a moment, and then his father says it's time to talk about something serious. He wants to know what Moon really thinks about Anne. Caught off guard, Moon says she's nice. But why bring that up? His father explains that he's watched that girl grow up. She comes from a good family, she's smart, and most importantly, she sees him as more than just her master. If Moon doesn't want to lose her, he better do something about it soon. Now Moon's standing there totally thrown off. What is his father even talking about? The Duke decides to be blunt. The family needs more heirs. His wife is only now having their second child, and with him going back to the front lines, there won't be time to make more. Moon nervously mentions that he's technically engaged to Payman. His father brushes it off, saying that's just political. Even if they do get married in the end, she'll be the main wife and Anne can be the secondary. Then his dad's face turns serious. He delivers the final verdict. In 3 years when he returns, Moon better have a child. That's it. That's the plan. What kind of ruthless dad throws Anne at him like that? I wouldn't want to be in that situation, honestly. That's a hard pass for me. As soon as his father leaves, Anne steps into the room and says she heard her name. She wants to know if he needs anything from her. Honestly, I thought Moon would dodge the question, but nope. He goes straight to the point and says they need to have a kid, because that's what his dad just told him to do. But he thinks it's just a joke, so she doesn't need to take it seriously. Her job is to be a maid, and in the future they'll each go their own way. Then, out of nowhere, he starts saying she's the perfect woman, and he's sure she'll find an amazing guy someday. If she ever meets someone, all she has to do is tell him in person. He'll give her his blessing to leave. And then, with all the confidence in the world, he puts a hand on her shoulder and tells her to be brave and find her own happiness. Meanwhile, he walks off feeling great, thinking he just pulled the perfect move. But is he actually into her? It feels like he is, doesn't it? But just as we expected, that didn't sit right with her at all. She's literally shaking with rage, whispering through clenched teeth that he really has changed. She can't wait any longer, it has to be tonight. And here we are, tonight. Our boy is lying there, thinking nothing is going the way he planned. He thought his father would help him get stronger, but now the guy is gone. So now he has to figure it out alone. For now, he's avoiding the academy, since half the people there are close to the all-powerful protagonist. And that would only make his situation worse. He needs to master the basics first. Only after that can he go out into the world. He closes another book, grabs the dark book, and when he opens it, it has a record of everything he read in the others. Actually, he only needs to see the cover and flip a few pages to learn the content. This little book is perfect for leveling up fast. Too bad that right at that moment, Anne walks in, acting all innocent. "What are you reading?" He brushes her off and asks if she brought him something to eat. She says yes. He tells her to go easy on him, but she just replies that this is part of her duties. She brought vintage wine. Only 100 bottles are produced per year, and it costs over 200,000 coins. But he says he's not in the mood. He's still studying and doesn't want to get distracted. The bottle is already cracking in her grip, and she asks what he would like to drink. He says coffee, to help him stay awake and focused, but she replies that they only have wine or black tea. Strange, that sounds oddly familiar. He pauses thinking, wait, this feels familiar. She hands over the cup, apologizing and saying the coffee beans were eaten by rats, so she'll bring fresh ones tomorrow. My God. This idiot doesn't even look at the cup, he drinks it. Gets hit with the shock. The cup crashes to the floor, and his vision goes blurry. He starts collapsing, asking why she betrayed him. But she gently catches him, saying she would never do that. She tells him to sleep peacefully. She says her heart is shattered. She loves him so much, so how could he say something like that? He's changed too much, and now he needs to be purified with her love. He'd better accept it, because they're going to be together forever, until the world ends. He opens his eyes, and where is he? You already know, hands and feet bound to a board. The prophecy girl is standing right in front of him. This prophecy's curse, I swear. She's already taking off her uniform, saying that damn black market guy never fails. He tries to ask what she's doing, but she immediately replies that he knows exactly what she's doing. Then she says that 10 years ago, when he was only 8, she stood by his side. From that moment on, her existence has been for his sake. In return, his existence now belongs to her, and now, she has to fix him and put him back on the right path. Moon says he has no idea what she's talking about and asks her to let him go. But she just hushes him. Don't say anything, I'll take care of everything. Night, head to toe, inside and out, his body, his soul, every scent, every strand of hair, every drop of blood, all of it will belong to her. Well, at least he doesn't have to worry about impressing his dad anymore. She's definitely taking care of that. Honestly, I was expecting some kind of twist. Someone barging in and stopping the scene, but no. Our boy wakes up the next morning, eyes exhausted, looking absolutely drained. It happens so many times. He loses consciousness, wakes up in the middle of it, then passes out again and wakes up once more. He just can't believe it. The same person who originally turned Moon into a worthless mess, and the same one who chained him up like this, was that damn Anne. He says she took him out in a single hit, and even though he was mentally prepared, it still hurt like hell. He begged her to stop this madness, let him out of those cuffs, and give him a chance to escape. She said not a chance. Compared to all the years she spent waiting, this pain was nothing. Dear God. All right, author, watch yourself. You're really skating along the edge here. I don't even know how to comment on this madness. Still, our guy is pretending he's in agony, but in truth, he admits the sensation was amazing. Even so, he knows she'll kill him if this keeps up. He needs to escape fast. But man, he's locked in steel cuffs bolted straight into the wall. And that lunatic just asks what he thinks he's doing. He says his wrists hurt, and he just wanted to stretch them a little. She says it's too late for that now. There's nothing she can do. She says she'll miss him like crazy, but unfortunately she has things to handle around the mansion. Otherwise, people might start suspecting something. And on top of that, she's wondering if maybe it'd be better to just kill everyone in the house, since he belongs to her now. That snaps him right out of it. He panics and begs her not to do anything like that. Before she finishes getting dressed, she asks if there's any maid here he might be into. Hopefully not Noel. He tells her she's lost her mind. There's nothing going on with anyone else. She laughs and tells him to calm down. She's just teasing. As long as he behaves, she promises not to hurt anyone in the house unless she absolutely has to. He begs her to let him go. There's no way she seriously plans to keep him locked in here forever. Suddenly the magical cuffs click open with a snap of her fingers. She just tells him not to try anything stupid. Core of this room is a sealed space, reinforced with steel from some tower no one's ever heard of. Translation? It's basically impossible to get out. He asks if no one will find this suspicious, but she says not to worry. She told everyone that after hearing his father's speech about becoming strong, Moon decided to return to the academy, so no one will question his disappearance for a while. And she assures him he doesn't need to worry about a thing. She'll bring him 3 meals a day like she always has. Obviously, he should trust her. She's been doing this for years. And then wham, she lands a clean hit. The guy is writhing in pain, honestly. This maid has gone way past the line now. It's hard to tell if someone out there would willingly agree to this level of insanity. She waves goodbye. He yells for her. The door slams shut. He never could have guessed that, out of everyone mentioned in the prophecy, it would be her. And every time he talks trash about the situation, the next thing he says is always how good it felt. That much he can't deny. The problem is he knows that if this keeps up, he won't survive. Even though she mentioned some kind of magical ceiling, he decides to try the door. He grabs the handle and pulls with all his strength, but immediately drops to the floor in agony. The entire room is made from pure, magically enhanced steel. There's no way out. Finally, the book shows up, without slapping him in the face this time. Moon tells it straight. He's got no chance. This woman has as much power and potential as Payman herself. Even if he starts training now, there's no way he'll get strong enough before dying. But the book just stays open, and he figures alright, he's got nothing better to do. May as well train instead of moping around. But then, wait a second. As he opens the book, he realizes the one he read last night had the equation he needed for this exact situation. Next chapter, he's already knocked out 199 to 200 push-ups. At least his body is still holding up after the real night. First it was Payman, now it's Anne. What the hell is happening to this guy? He's not mad about the pain. What really gets to him is that he can't do anything. He's always the one being overpowered. But next time, he swears he'll be the one who takes her down. That thought barely finishes forming before she shows up smiling and saying the day's work is over. So Moon, talk is easy. Now let's see you act. And cute as she is, she's already saying she feels like a wife coming home after a long day. So cute, she says like this is all perfectly normal. She brought him dinner, and even prepared a bath at the perfect temperature. Good grief, how am I even supposed to describe this? She asks if he wants to eat, take a bath, or well you know. And this lying little punk, after all that talk, is already headed straight for the bath, sinking in like he's trying to relax. But judging by the look on his face, relaxing is the last thing he's doing. He mutters that he's not a child, and doesn't need help with this sort of thing. Someone, please set this poor boy free before I get banned for reading this. She says that now that his body belongs to her, she has to take care of it. She even tests his hearing while he's mentally screaming that he absolutely cannot lose to this yandere. Dinner time rolls around, and he thanks her, saying the food tastes amazing, grabs the plate, and starts eating. He asks what kind of meat it is, and she casually replies that it's from some rare 3-horned giant bull. She made it especially for him, since it's known to enhance physical strength. He tells her never to serve him that again, but she just smirks and says he's already eaten it dozens of times. She's been feeding it to him in secret. He stands up done. He says he's tired of this. He's being kept locked away, not even allowed to see sunlight, and now she's feeding him all this weird stuff. If she doesn't let him out now, down he goes again. Knocked out cold. Poor guy, what can you even do? Once again, the food was drugged. She even whispers for him to enjoy it, because the night is going to be long. When he opens his eyes again, it's clear the guy has been wrecked. She apologizes for the night before, saying she got scared he wouldn't survive, so she took it easy on him this time. Yeah, this monster of a guy didn't stand a chance. He said he was going to dominate or whatever, then got crushed again. She tries to talk to him, but he completely ignores her. So she says that since he's been a good boy for 2 days straight, she'll grant him one request. He immediately asks for freedom. She says that's impossible. He asks for new clothes. She says that's also impossible. He looks at her like, what kind of wish is this if I can't ask for anything? She explains that the highest level wish he can make right now is something like choosing when he wants to eat tomorrow. And listen, on the site where I'm reading this, people in the comments are saying the protagonist is suffering too much, and they're willing to trade places with him just to take some of the heat off the poor guy. So he sighs and admits, yeah, choosing what to eat is better than nothing. He thinks back to this time of year. He used to enjoy a specific seasonal wine and some special fish. She comments that the fish he's talking about comes from Lake Bepor, which is really far away. He plays it up, saying he used to be a free spirit. Now he can't even decide what to eat, stuck in confinement like this. If he can't even get a little fish from Lake Bepor, then what's the point of living? She calls his name but then says fine, she'll get it for him. Immediately, he grabs her arm and thanks her, all grateful. And this guy is throwing in hearts now. He says he's suffering, but is he really? He wishes her a great day at work and tells her he'll be waiting at home for her. She short-circuits on the spot, completely flustered. Then suddenly runs in, kisses him, and he's left standing there stunned. I don't even know at this point. Is he playing 4D chess, trying to mess with the villain's head? As she's leaving, she mentions that the trip to Lake Bapor will take until tomorrow afternoon, so he should get some rest. And once she's outside, she's visibly holding herself back, muttering that she almost couldn't control herself. The young master really is the cutest thing in the world, and she can't wait to bring him that fish just to spoil him even more. While he's thinking that maybe, just maybe, he'll finally get a moment of peace and a full night's rest, he figures that means it's time to pull out his favorite treasure, the book. Gotta grind a little more in those simulated training spaces. It looks like he's asking to enter a simulation called The Space of 1,000 Locks, based on one of the books he read, to level up his ability to break magical seals. Meanwhile, somewhere under the rain and gathering storms, someone warns a certain girl that Lake Bapor is extremely dangerous right now. She should back off. As the person reaches to grab her hand, she activates a power and stabs him in the hand, saying no one but the young master is allowed to touch her. If he tries to stop her again, she'll feed him to the fish. The old man just grumbles that if the crazy woman wants to die, he won't stop her. But she should know Lake Bapor's master is awake. The guild has been watching, and they confirmed it. It's a monarch-class creature. Anne lifts her hands and says, "Ah, that explains this weird weather." The boatman mutters that she'd better leave him 300 coins, since he has to deal with his injured hand now. More than that, she shouldn't mess with the Adventurers Guild. They won't let her walk away unscathed. She's just got a bucket full of coins sitting in the ice. He asks her again, does she really want to go? She needs to understand how dangerous this is. She's not grasping what it means to make enemies of the main Adventurers Guild, but she flatly says she doesn't care. They mean nothing to her. She's doing this for love. Then we cut to a group of adventurers gathered near the lake. One girl holding a staff says she can't let anything happen to Rod. After this mission, she's finally going to confess. Someone snaps at her, telling Erica to focus and stop daydreaming. She's the healer. She needs to cast now, or they won't hold out much longer. She starts channeling magic, and another adventurer yells that the creature is coming. After tanking so many special attacks, the thing is finally about to reveal itself. That's when a giant shark erupts from the lake. Obviously, it's the master of the lake. It charges up a massive water bomb. Someone screams Rod's name. He casts Blessing of the Earth to raise a barrier. He yells for the mage to launch her spell, and she starts conjuring through her staff. Turns out she's both a healer and a mage. Talk about multitasking. But just before her spell lands, another explosive blast goes off. She tells Rod to charge in. He takes the opportunity, rushes the creature, and lands a direct slash to the head. The entire lake detonates from the hit. He's exhausted, but still manages to turn around and give a thumbs up, saying, "It's done." Wow, this guy has a powerhouse mage and a dedicated healer. That's one perfectly balanced party. The mage is standing there fixing her hair, all smiles and gratitude, while poor Erica, the healer, just sits there feeling like she didn't contribute anything. Rod and the other girl, Tia, are complimenting each other, saying it's great to adventure side by side. Meanwhile, Erica is sinking inside. She made a promise when they were kids that she and Rod would always be a duo. She's worked hard for years, but it feels like he doesn't see her anymore. She was the first one by his side, and now she's just background support while he's clearly falling for someone else. Tia is still healing him when Rod suddenly calls out to Erica, telling her to snap out of it and help dissect the lake monster. But then something feels off. They hear a strange sound. The surface of the water grows murky again, and then, boom, water blasts upward into the sky. Everyone ducks immediately. Another lake beast is rising. This one is different. This one is the real deal. Tia quickly starts casting a third-tier spell, a huge one. But it doesn't do a thing. The magic slams into the creature's neck and nothing. The beast counters with a thunderstorm attack from its horn, and lightning tears through the sky. Erica grabs Rod and pulls him out of the way, yelling for him to be careful. But he tells her to move. This monster is way beyond what they can handle. She asks what he's going to do, and he says, "I'm going to protect Tia. I brought her into this party. It's my responsibility." Even if it means dying, he is ready to die by her side. Erica definitely would have preferred not to hear that. Rod charges forward while from a distance, someone silently watches the whole mess unfold. Of course it's Anne, curious to witness the power of a monarch-level beast firsthand. Anne. If dragons had this kind of strength, she figures she might finally get that specific part to feed the young master. But why is she always trying to feed him monster meat anyway? Once again, the boss readies another lightning strike. Rod knows it, this is the end for them. But just then, Anne casts a binding spell. A bolt of lightning crashes from the sky and slams into the creature. When Rod looks again, the beast is falling back into the lake. Even the attack it was about to unleash has been completely cancelled. Someone checks on Erica, asking if she's alright. It's Anne. She tells Erica to stay out of it. She'll handle this monster herself. With that, she activates another restriction. And Erica realizes this woman is manipulating liquid metal. The creature starts getting pierced from every direction. And Anne, calm as ever, is forging a sword out of thin air as she floats toward the beast like she's walking on air, saying the monster will pay for scaring away the fish she came all this way to catch for the young master. The price for messing with her plans is death. One clean slash, the creature is sliced clean in half. It sinks back into the depths. Rod watches from the side, speechless. He can't believe a monarch-class beast was taken out just like that. Yeah, our sweet protagonist has a lot of work ahead if he ever wants to break free from that. Erica runs over to check on Rod. He says he's fine. Tia isn't doing great. He has a few healing potions, but they won't be enough. That's when he asks Erica to go talk to that woman. He wants her to find out if she's an adventurer and if she'd be interested in joining their party, because anyone who can kill a monarch beast like that would be one hell of an addition. Anne is busy down by the edge of the lake, gathering the leftover fish. The only problem? She forgot to ask the young master which ones he actually likes. Just then, Erica walks up and tells her the two she's holding aren't edible. One smells awful when cooked, and the other is highly toxic. She should take the other two near the front. Those are the famous edible ones from Lake Bapor. Anne, curious, asks how she knows that. Erica explains that she used to live nearby. A lot of nobles like those fish, so she used to catch and sell them. Within 15 minutes of watching Anne prepare them, she already knew how to handle the fish and make them perfect. That's when Erica asks, "Did you come all this way to get this fish for someone you love?" Anne calmly answers yes. The person she loves wanted fish, so she came. Erica replies, "If you have someone you love that much and they receive that love from you, they must be really lucky." Anne pauses, reflecting on how her love is received, which right now involves the guy unconscious in a dark room, and says yes, he's very lucky. "I'm sure he understands the depth of my love." She turns to leave, but Erica calls out to her, asking her to wait. She says it's about love. She has a problem, and she wants the opinion of a mature woman like her. Anne sets the fish down and replies that love is the kind of problem where the solution isn't always clear. But since Erica helped her figure out the fish situation, she'll try to return the favor with some advice. Erica starts with the classic line, "So my friend has liked someone for a really long time, but she doesn't know if this person feels the same." Her friend is kind of shy, a bit naive, and now there's another woman in the picture. And ever since, he's been treating that new girl better, so now she's thinking of giving up. Anne listens carefully, then asks how much this friend loves that guy. Erica immediately replies, "It's not me, it's my friend." But Anne cuts the act. "Enough with that, just say it." Erica finally admits it. Yes, it's her. She's loved him since they were kids for over 10 years. Anne looks her dead in the eye and asks, "Would you give your life for him?" And Erica says, "Not just my life. I'd do anything for him, even if the whole world stood against me." Oh boy, here we go. Another one completely off the rails. Anne just nods and says, "Well, it sounds like you already have your answer then." If her love really runs that deep, there's nothing left to ask. She needs to follow the true voice in her heart and give everything she has to the one she loves. And more importantly, she should think carefully before making any choice she might regret later. As Anne walks away, Erica is left there, deep in thought, replaying that whole follow your heart speech. Then suddenly a strange flame ignites, not around her but inside her. A voice whispers, asking if she's really going to give up everything. Is she really going to surrender? The voice tells her to let go of morality, laws, and even her own life, to sacrifice it all for him, and not let anyone else take him away. And this world is a ticking time bomb. I remember the stuff in the Jong Hao story where the girls were unhinged. But this is a whole other tier of crazy. Now she's trembling, muttering that she'll lose it if someone else ends up with Rod. The voice replies, "Finally, you understand. You need to embrace your deepest desires and claim him. But there's a catch. Rod is strong. So if she wants to make sure he truly belongs to her, she'll have to break his arms, slap a collar on him, and reduce him to nothing more than a pet." Yep, the demons in this world are something else. Meanwhile, Rod is sitting beside Tia, practically saying a prayer over her. He turns to Erica and asks if she's okay and what happened with that other woman. She says she's fine. The lady didn't do anything. It just took a while because she ran out of mana. The only issue is that she's a maid from a noble family, so she can't join their party. Rod says that's fine. What can you do? He just wanted to thank her in person. Tia agrees. If it weren't for that woman, they'd all be dead. Then Tia adds that she noticed something strange, a weird mark on Erica's chest. Erica quickly covers it and brushes it off, saying it's nothing, probably from the impact earlier, or some kind of magical backlash. She'll get it checked later. Rod picks Tia up in his arms and says she's right. They need to find somewhere to rest. The two of them are acting all soft and flirty, while Erica just watches from a distance, eyes dark, with something definitely wrong. Next morning, our poor boy wakes up looking like a wreck, probably trained all night, because of course she's already back, saying she finally returned. I'm convinced now. He's pulling the classic 3D chess move. He puts on the act, saying he missed her so much and was sure he'd die if he didn't see her again. He strokes his face sweetly, saying it looks like he's finally ready to give her his body and soul. She apologizes. It's just that Lake Bapor was really far away, and it took longer than expected to bring back the freshest fish. But here it is, exactly what he asked for. And wow, she really went all out. 5 clean cuts on the fish, 3 herbs tossed straight into the oven. The presentation is ridiculous. He's hyped, saying it smells amazing, and he's already reaching out to try it. She makes the airplane sound, feeds it to him, and he thanks her, then tells her she should try some too. But she shakes her head and says not this time. She made this one especially for him. She tells him to be careful though, because fish have lots of bones. He scoffs and says he's not a kid. But the moment he takes a bite, something gets stuck in his throat. Immediately she leans in and says she'll take care of it. He panics, asking how. And she, completely deadpan, says she'll press her lips to his, use her lung capacity to pull it out, and clear his airway. He tells her she's absolutely insane. That doesn't even make sense. But life is cruel and our boy suffers a tragic fate. Next chapter. Yeah, we jumped straight into chaos. She cheerfully says the problem is solved. She pulled the bone out. He mutters a tired thank you, and just starts eating again, if only to make her stop talking. A little while later, he finishes his plate and admits the fish really was excellent. I'll give you 25 cents if you can guess what she wants to do next. But he shuts it down, telling her not now. He needs a break. That's when she pulls out the psychological cards and asks, "So are you already getting tired of me?" But our boy is slick. He says that, according to the experts, it's not good to exercise right after eating. It could be bad for the body. And if a child were conceived in that state, it might not be born healthy, and the pregnancy could become complicated. Anne, of course, interprets all of this as him being deeply concerned about her, and she gets emotional. She says, "All right then, you make a good point. I'll come back tonight to continue our little work." Before leaving, though, she casually mentions that she passed through the famous city of Savat, known for its custom-designed outfits. He asks what that has to do with anything, and she says she bought a, combat outfit, something fierce and full of armor. Just from the look on his face, you already know what he's thinking. He immediately says he's not into that stuff. He's a man of integrity. But she just smiles and says, "I've been around for a long time. I've seen all the magazines you have." The reason she always wears those black stockings was for him, and the poor guy is stunned. He always thought that was just her personal fashion choice. But he has to admit, yeah, she nailed it. He did like them. He laughs, calls him incorrigible, then waves goodbye and tells him to take a nap. Just like that, she's gone, and he's still stuck in that room. Man, I'm seriously hoping our protagonist escapes soon. Sure, the situation doesn't look that bad from the outside, but come on. Is he really just going to stay locked in a room forever? Wait, scratch that. Spoke too soon. He's already up and activating his skill to try unlocking the door. And this kid? Genius. Turns out he asked for that fishbone on purpose. He's using it as a makeshift lockpick. But the moment he starts working on it, he triggers a trap. 12 cuts across the mechanism. He falls back instantly, cursing under his breath and saying, "She's gotta be kidding. There's no way something this insane can be opened manually." Based on the theory from one of his books, he has to lift each lock pin to the exact height without breaking the fishbone to trigger the release. The catch? He only managed to hide 4 fishbones from her, and this thing requires 12 perfect attempts. It's going to be hell. Worse still, if the bone breaks inside the lock and she finds a piece left behind, she'll know immediately. He gives it another shot, and yep, snap. That's not even the first one he's broken. He's already gone through 3. It's been an hour and a half. She'll be back with his food any minute now. He calls out to the book, trying to squeeze in some last-minute study. At this point, it's too complex to brute force. At least he's mapped out the exact pin height for the first 10. It's just those last 2. He's got nothing to lose now. It's all or nothing. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, the 2 maids are hanging out. Erica tries a piece of the fish Anne prepared, and admits it really is delicious. The creatures from Lake Bapor are no joke. Anne thanks her for the help, saying that thanks to Erica, she finished cooking a whole hour earlier than usual. Erica, though, wants to know why she's suddenly learning new recipes. After all, the young master went off to the academy, and the madam is pregnant and staying at the other estate to focus on her pregnancy. Yet every time Anne makes an extra portion of food, it's weird. Anne's hand subtly moves toward her knife, mana starting to gather. But Erica quickly blurts out, "Oh, I get it. You're hiding a secret pet here, right? Probably a cute little cat." She explains that the old heads of the house never allowed pets because of the fur and mess. But now that they're not around, it makes sense she'd try to sneak one in. Anne breathes out and says, "You caught me. Keep it a secret, okay?" Erica says it's no problem, but she really wants to see the little guy someday. Anne smiles and says maybe one day, but not right now. He's still really shy and easily scared. As she walks away and thinks to herself how glad she is that she didn't have to resort to the worst case scenario, killing Erica and dealing with the aftermath. That conversation, however, makes her realize something else. Keeping the young master locked away in that room might start wearing on him. He could get bored, or worse, fed up. Besides, she still doesn't feel anything moving in her stomach, which means the pregnancy hasn't started yet. At the very least, there will be another 10 months before that even becomes a thing. Maybe she should actually get a pet to help the young master relax a little. A cat wouldn't be a bad choice. Or better yet, she'll just ask him directly what he wants. But then her whole expression changes. The tray slips from her hands, and the food crashes to the floor. When she gets to the room, the door is wide open. "Our boy is out. He finally escaped. Let's go." He's hiding in some rundown wing of the mansion, furniture trashed, everything dark and dusty. He stumbles and falls awkwardly, hitting the ground hard. Everything is filthy, the lighting is terrible, but whatever. Thanks to the memories of his body, he knows exactly where he is. And if there's one magic trick this useless guy knows, it's that little light orb. It's time. He needs to get out before she finds him. Just as he thinks that, clang, a knife slams into the wall next to his head. He gasps, saying it's impossible. He ran way too far to be caught already, but then he hears it, that voice. From the shadows, calm and terrifying, she says, "I finally found the like on this video. So you remember how our blonde boy awakened in this world where all the girls are much stronger than the average guy. He tried to adapt at the beginning so no one would find out. Later he met his political fiancée, the girl with white hair. Then bro had to survive a crazy invasion during a party at his own home, where we had Amber from Genshin Impact doing some shenanigans and always trying to get our blondie in trouble. Bro got seriously injured but left everyone thinking he was some kind of hero for protecting adult paymen. Then he woke up with Anne by his side, the delicious maid. I mean hard-working one, always serving him so he could recover. While bro was using that black book to become stronger, his father and family had to leave to handle some political stuff. That was the moment our poor Moon was kidnapped by his maid. From then on, he went through heaven and heaven, 'cause damn, there was no hell with that girl. Every day was a tough day with an even tougher fight. But he fought on the mattress with strength and conviction. Tired of so much pussy, bro asked for a rare fish, and Anne had to travel far away to get it. He used the meantime to make an escape plan from paradise on Earth. She came back much earlier than he expected. But after heavy work, and knowing she had other stuff to do, he took the chance to escape. And that brings us back to the escape moment. Let's get it. Do you remember how the last chapter ended? With Moon on the run? He thought he was about to get away, but out of nowhere, Anne pulled out a knife right next to him. The protagonist turns around, shocked that she'd already caught up. He'd been running like crazy, and there she was, deep in the sewer, saying she'd found the young master, and we're back with this thick-legged menace. He starts trembling when he sees her coming, and immediately takes off, saying that now that he's made it this far, he has to escape. Then he tells himself not to underestimate her, and activates Shadow Step. Anne, though, starts summoning a bunch of maid tools at him, and fires off a whole combo that wrecks the place. She glares, and a wooden piece of furniture drops down on top of him, but she doesn't stop for even a second. She throws a kick, and it's basically just a shot of her legs. She's insane. But when the smoke clears, the kid is gone. She's confused. If he's running that fast, he must have learned magic at the academy. Something's off. She thought she had completely sealed this place. So how did he get out? She thinks he escaped, but he's actually hiding right there to the side. Meanwhile, she says she underestimated the young master. Then she's like, how about this? If he comes back into the palm of her hand, she'll pretend none of this happened. Otherwise, she blasts the wood next to her. Nobody's there. She says she missed, and now she'll have to destroy everything until there's nowhere left for him to hide. The protagonist starts thinking maybe he should just give up. Prison wasn't even that bad. He had food, he had drinks, she was always serving him. Sure, he had zero freedom, but at least he was alive. Anne says she isn't sensing any fluctuation in the air. Maybe he isn't there after all. She runs off, and 10 minutes pass. He's sweating cold. He hasn't seen her in a while, so maybe it's time to bolt. He reaches for the doorknob, but then he jumps. She found him, and she's staring right at him. Wait, no, she's somewhere else, destroying another crate and saying she really was wrong. The young master escaped, which is a shame. Now she has to focus on finding him as fast as possible. It'll be a huge problem if Noel and the others find out what happened. He's almost passing out when suddenly, a book smacks him in the head. He panics, thinking it's her, but then relaxes. He's just way too on edge. He grabs the book. She's gone. And he takes off at full speed. He gets to the door, shoves the furniture out of the way, and finally he's outside. He celebrates. He escaped the prison that a lot of people would have wanted to be in, but immediately covers his mouth, telling himself it's better to stay quiet for now. And he runs. Considering he escaped by luck, there's a big chance that if he gets caught again, the prophecy will come true. 2 days later, on the Berlin plains, the protagonist is lying on the ground. After running nonstop this whole time, he's finally close to the capital. Feeling the sun on his skin and the breeze, he decides to rest a bit. Then he gets up again, saying it's not time to let his guard down. He's only 1 city away. If Anne starts tracking him again, it could all end right there. He splashes water on his face and says, "Alright, that's it." He's going to the Mayor's Academy. But then he hears some guys arguing, asking if she wants all 3 of them dead. A weird bald guy is ordering someone to hand over everything valuable. If she doesn't obey, they'll have to get rough. The girl on the left asks if they're really ready to face the consequences of robbing her. The guy with the shaved eyebrow line says she looks like a mage, but he can't feel a single drop of aura from her. She keeps threatening them, saying he clearly isn't afraid of justice. The guy just pounds his chest and says they're professional bandits. They're acting straight up like Team Rocket, posing and acting all full of themselves, telling the pretty girl to hand over everything before she ends up dead. If she takes one more step in any direction, her hand is getting cut off. Then everyone freaks out when the protagonist pops out of the water, telling them to stop. The guys think what came out of the water is a blonde mermaid. One of them says, "Look properly, idiot. There's obviously no chest. That's a man." The protagonist says it's shameful for 3 men to bully a girl like that. He points at her and tells her she can go. But then things get weird. Guys put their swords away, lick their lips and say they're done stealing items. Now they're gonna steal this boy's virtues. What do you mean by that? No, you're not switching to that genre. The protagonist is in shock until the girl beside him starts chanting some special explosion spell and blasts everyone with flames. The 3 losers are burning like they're in hell, and the protagonist still doesn't understand what just happened. She calls him Mr. Merman and says there the 3 idiots are taken care of. She thanks him for distracting them and giving her a chance to use magic. He replies that her magic, when she says stuff like that, is pretty incredible. Then she comments that the indecency of his clothes shows he's not from around here. He tries to explain that he has his reasons, and introduces himself as Muin, an unemployed guy. The girl offers her hand and introduces herself as Elka, a former adventurer who's now in newlywed training to be a good wife and wise mother. Yeah, that's already kind of odd. She's excited, saying she got married last night. He's about to say something, but his stomach growls louder and she asks if he's hungry. He says he hasn't eaten in 2 days. She says great, then he can come with her. Since he helped deal with the bandits, she has some food and she'll cook something for him. He gets super excited. After 48 hours of running, a break like that is perfect. Walks beside her, saying her husband is lucky to have such a kind and beautiful woman. She answers that, as a married woman, she loves hearing compliments. Can he compliment her more? What the hell? How does that make sense? He doesn't get it. Walking behind her, he asks, "So you just got married? What are you doing out here where bandits pass through? Isn't that dangerous?" She explains that she had to go to the city to handle something related to her husband's work. He figures her husband is probably an adventurer, since she used to be one. She says yes, but she and Ro don't plan to go adventuring for a while, so she went to inform the guild. Because if they don't say anything, people will worry. Then she asks if Moon wants to eat fish today, and he's hyped and says yes. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he hears an "I love you," totally random. He starts looking around, trying to figure out where it came from. He says it's weird. She asks what's wrong, and he asks if she heard another voice. She says no, and he's like, "Okay, never mind, I think I'm hearing things." Reach what looks like her little town, with a mansion, kind of wealthy. He even comments that her house is really big. She explains it's not her house. It belongs to the village chief, and they're just staying there for a while. He says he wants to ask something. The village is really quiet. There's nobody around, and all the doors are open. Aren't they afraid of bandits? Elka says that's exactly why there's nobody in town. The lake is nearby, it's almost fishing season, and everyone went to take advantage and make money. Rode, who he assumes is her husband, is in charge of selling the fish, and he went to the city to sell them. For now, she's basically a backup guardian for the village during this special period. He scratches his chin thinking that's probably why he didn't see anyone on the way. But then again he hears that weird voice, like another I love you. He looks behind him, confused, but she just tells him to hurry up and leave his sandals at the door. Moon thinks it's strange, maybe it's just his imagination. Inside the living room she sets out new clothes for him, a cup of water, and says she'll prepare dinner. He thanks her, but he isn't stupid. He dips a finger in the water, sees nothing weird, and the smell is normal. No strange reaction on his skin either. Looks like it's just plain water, not drugged, so maybe he can trust her. Respect. After being locked up that long he has to be careful. After a while the big fish is cooked and he's full. He compliments it. She says he's too kind, it was just a simple meal. But during the conversation, she catches him mentioning a certain maid, which means he isn't just some normal guy. Then out of nowhere he reveals who he is. I thought he'd keep hiding behind the name Miwin, but he says, "You know the Campbell family, right? I'm actually Miwin Campbell," meaning Moon Campbell. She looks confused. Wait, the Duke's son? He says yes, and for certain reasons he's being hunted, so he hopes to hide here using her adventurer status as cover. He wants her to get him a horse, maybe a carriage, and send a letter to the guild so he can stay here for a while. Bold kid. She laughs, thinking he's making up some fake story like, "Oh yeah, I'm the Duke's son." He tells her to take it seriously. He's telling the truth. He really is the Duke's son, and he promises she'll get 20,000 Amelias as a reward. She keeps laughing, saying she thought he was going to make her president of the guilds and give her a castle too. Like, sure, I believe you. He insists he's not joking. Everything he said is true. Could she please take him seriously? She still doesn't. She sets the cup on the table and says she'll show him his room. He asks if she agreed to the plan, if she'll help him. She says yes. 20,000 Amelias isn't a small amount, and she hasn't been earning much lately, so there's no reason to refuse. They're in a dark hallway, and she says that's where he'll stay. If he needs anything, he should just call her. But he mustn't open any other door, especially that one. He asks what's in there. She explains that various cuts of butchered meat are air drying inside, so it has to stay sealed for special preparation. If he opens it now, the horrible smell will spread through the house and the meat will spoil. He says okay, promises he won't wander around. She says she'll see him tomorrow. But of course, then she says it's a shame he won't see tomorrow. A demon symbol appears on her chest as she says it's a shame the young master is going to die. This was the last offering to the god of love, and he was chosen. Damn. Meanwhile, Anne is still tracking him. She knows the boy's scent and knows exactly where it's flowing. She's furious too, saying he's destined to never escape her. Now I don't even know who's worse. It's a Yandere showdown, which is honestly new. Let's see. Next chapter, the protagonist is lying there, unable to fall asleep, saying he drank too much water, so he goes to the bathroom. But as he leaves the room, he thinks he hears a dog barking and gets confused. When he starts walking toward it, Elka suddenly appears behind him and calls for Moon. It's so late, why is he still awake? What's wrong? He awkwardly says, well, it's normal. He drank a lot of water, and now he needs the bathroom. Then he mentions that he heard barking. Does she have a dog? She makes this psycho expression and says yes, she has a dog, and he's the cutest, most beautiful dog in the world. He's usually well behaved, but suddenly he's barking. Yeah, that's scary. The protagonist says he figured she might. Can he see her little dog? He really likes animals, and it's been a long time since he's seen one. She says unfortunately her dog isn't the type who likes strangers. He's very shy, so better not. Moon's like, oh okay then, I'm going to the bathroom. She tells him to be very careful not to open the wrong door, and she's just staring with those demon eyes. Then the protagonist comes out of the bathroom saying, for the love of God, nobody has ever cleaned that place. Then he wonders, could that be the room she mentioned with the dog? That barking when she said it was kind of weird. What breed even is that thing? Yeah, there's his kind right there. Moon, man, wow. Holy crap. Dude is enslaved, just like the main character, and Elka is telling him to eat and not make any noise. If he obeys her properly, she'll let him out tomorrow. The moment the main character hears that, he freaks out. He takes a step back and steps on a branch. Elka immediately stands up, asking who he is and whether it's Mr. Moon. She opens the window and looks around, but the main character, genius that he is, has already hidden up there, flipping and climbing up. She slams the window shut, saying something about the hour of the god of love. Then the main character drops to the ground, thinking this psycho is worse than the other one. Clearly that guy being tortured had to be the husband she said she loves so much. He ran from one yandere just to run into a psychopath. Now it makes sense why this village is so weirdly terrifying. Honestly, he should have just gotten out of there. So he takes off running again. Meanwhile, Elka keeps calling for him at the bedroom door until she finds it completely empty. She summons a sword, blows up the wall, Says that bastard must have realized. But then someone's at the door. When she goes over there, dim, she runs straight into Anne. Hold on. Elka is calling Anne master. And Anne says it's been a long time since they've seen each other. And now they're in the living room, with Elka serving tea and saying Anne looks cute in that maid outfit. Anne says she had to leave the mansion in a panic and didn't have time to change. Also, why is Elka calling her master? Anne doesn't remember teaching her anything. Elka says Anne must have forgotten the encouraging words she told her. Wait, is this the girl they ran into earlier? I didn't even connect that, you know. And she went fishing that day and saved a group. This road guy is her husband, right? He's in that group, and now she's saying she'll show just how much. Anne helped her win her love. Anne stands up and says she's sure of it. Not only does she smell blood, she can also smell the young master. Elka apologizes for making her wait, brings in her husband. She tells Rode to say hi to her master. She makes him offer his hand like a pet, pats his head, and calls him a good boy. But Anne isn't right in the head either. She just takes it as, so that's how this couple works. Interesting. You're really good at this, Elka. Elka says, well, she learned from her master, and she's sure her master must have managed to make her beloved surrender too. But Anne just sighs and says no, she got surpassed by her student. She tried to take too much for herself and ended up neglecting things, creating an opening for her love to slip out of her grasp. Then Elka suddenly goes, oh, young master, could your lover be Mr. Moon? How did she jump to that? No idea. But Anne wants to know if it's him. Where is he? Elka explains everything. She found him wrecked in the middle of the street, brought him home, made food, he lay down to sleep, and then he vanished. Anne asks how many hours ago, and Elka says the last time she saw him was around 2, so he can't be far. She has tracking magic. They can start following his trail. Elka asks her master to wait while she prepares the spell, and she also tells Anne not to wander around the house too much, because it doesn't belong to her, and there are certain rooms that can't be opened. Anne sits on the bed, grabs the boy's pillow, starts sniffing it, asking if he hates her so much he ran 3 cities away. Why won't he just accept her love? But then when she opens her eyes, Elka's husband is crouched there like a lunatic. In an instant his eyes clear up, and he starts screaming, rambling about everyone, about an aunt and some weird stuff, while Anne tries to make sense of it. Suddenly he grabs Anne's hand, says the last room is dangerous, and tells her to get out of there. Then just as fast his eyes glaze over again, and he goes back to being obedient. Anne heard the part about the last door. She walks all the way down the hallway, not caring about anything. She tries the handle. Locked. So she uses magic, and when it opens, a horrible smell hits her. Inside, there's a woman on a cross, and a bunch of people sleeping forever on the floor. It's obviously the whole village, all resting in the same room. Right then, Elka appears behind her and says it's unfortunate her master saw that, but since they're the same kind of person, she's sure her master will understand why. Everything she does is for love. Honestly, Anne's little room is starting to look more and more cozy by comparison. Anne says it looks like Elka was corrupted by the evil god. Elka covers her face and laughs like Kira, saying it's ironic to call him an evil god. The god she follows is the god of love, so that's disrespectful. Anne just watches this. Lunatic talk about how the god gave her the chance to fulfill her true love. Since Anne understands this kind of thing, she'll accept that love. But Anne closes her eyes and says this is a lost cause. Seeing Anne close her eyes, Elka thinks she gave up and thanks her, saying not to worry, she'll open her up gently. Yeah, but it's Anne. In the blink of an eye, she pulls out her twin steel daggers and flashes past Elka. Instant kill. One clean strike to the neck. Anne apologizes, saying she can't let her hurt anyone else. Elka's done. Just like that. One hit. As she's about to drift into eternal sleep, she asks what's wrong with her love. Anne says that isn't love. Coming from her, that's rich. She's not exactly one to talk. Elka insists it's real love, the same thing Anne taught her. Anne just walks away apologizing. That woman really showed up in the story just to die. Yeah, life's rough. Anne thinks the temptation of the evil god is terrifying. It creates a corrupted love that can even make someone kill the person they love. She decides part of it was her fault. After she finds Moon, she'll come back and give that girl a proper burial. But then, no way it was that easy. A voice starts echoing through the mansion. I love you, master, I love you. A bubble of blood forms above the mansion, and Anne realizes immediately. It's the so-called god of love, the evil god really. Meanwhile, Moon is still running, he doesn't stop. Someone is already right behind him. He really can't afford to slow down. He barely dodges an attack and keeps going, wondering what that was. It felt like a meteor strike. Then he hears coughing or a voice, and when he looks up at a tree, it's Anne, all messed up. Damn, she already found him. She's fast, but obviously she got attacked by that thing. She tells the main character she knew he was nearby. Instead of running, he says, "Anne, how are you? What happened? You look hurt." She says they don't have time. She'll hold the woman back. For now, he needs to run. But that creepy voice keeps asking where the master is, and saying it loves the master. Then this creature shows up. Gender makes no sense. 30 arms, a tentacle face, telling them to become one. It's calling for its master, Anne, and also calling for Mr. Moon, while the main character is like, what is this freaky thing? The creature says it loves him too and swings at him, sending slashes flying his way. And Anne, the dear yandere, is in her sorry arc now, right? She throws herself in front of him and takes the hit, getting a bunch of cuts on her thighs. She's wrecked. The main character says his head hurts from getting hit, but she's calling to him, telling him to get up. He helps her stand, saying her leg isn't okay, but she shoves him away, saying he needs to run. He shouldn't worry. Once she beats this creature, she'll come after him and drag him back to the mansion. She's blushing while saying it, but still, calm down, because the creature in front of them is saying it loves both of them, and attacks again, telling them to accept its love. Anne braces herself with her steel armor, but the main character activates Shadow Step at 200% full power, and yanks her out of there. They sprint, both getting attacked. While she asks why, he says she can't lie. If she could beat that thing, she would have done it already. She wouldn't have ended up like this. He says no matter how far you took things, you're still my maid, so I can't let you die. I mean, she locked him up for months and did messed up stuff. You can't just forgive that so easily. There he is, aura up, Sung Jinwoo face, saying he'll show what a pro looks like dodging everything while carrying her. She watches him, exhausted, and he tells her not to worry. They'll be safe soon. But behind them, that glow keeps chasing them. The bunch of blood hands reaching out, telling him to accept love. So he tells Anne to hold on, and jumps toward the sea. Both of them hit the water. Since the liquid-bodied creature, maybe this will work. And it does. When the thing tries to enter the water, it kind of breaks apart. Then he realizes Anne has like 16 IQ. This idiot forgot to keep her mouth closed and save air. So he gives her a little kiss to share air. But let's be real, after the whole imprisonment thing, that kiss is nothing. Up above, the demon goddess says the smell of blood is gone. She wonders why nobody accepts her love when it's so pure. She starts screaming, hitting trees, completely unhinged, saying it doesn't matter. She only needed one more person. Then the offering would finally be perfect. Master Moon can wait for her because she guarantees he'll accept her love. Next chapter, the main character finds a cave to hide in with Anne. He wraps her leg with bandages because she's in pain, and like in that damn drawing, she says she doesn't really understand what's going on. He asks what she means. She says the obvious. She imprisoned him and used him for messed up things, so why didn't he just abandon her and run? He asks if she understands the mistakes she made. She says that after what happened with Elka, that girl went insane. She really has to be careful, so something like that doesn't happen. She needs to be more responsible with what she does to the young master. Still, she can't believe he isn't blaming her. He takes her arms and says yes, what she did was too much. But love itself isn't wrong. It's just that the way she expressed it was wrong. He understands everything she did was to possess him, not to hurt him. And she doesn't need to worry. The young master is fine. Yeah, he likes her. He's smiling, saying he's impressed. He said exactly what he needed to. Remove the yandere trait from her. She jumps, kisses him and hugs him, saying he's so pure, sweet and kind, just like he was 10 years ago. Trying to stain him with her colors was her biggest mistake. Then she activates her daggers, saying her energy has recovered and she's back at her best. Just say the word and she'll handle it. But her leg hurts right away. He pulls her into a hug, saying she needs to recover first. They have time. Later he looks outside the cave and sees no movement. He turns and asks what Elka actually was. Anne explains that they have similar powers. The difference is how they get them. Anne was chosen by the gods. Elka made a deal with cultists and paid a heavy price. In her current state, she has overwhelming power, but she can't go back to being a normal person anymore. The problem is, when Anne fought Elka, she realized Elka's power kept increasing, which was strange. The main character thinks back and remembers that in the main story, one of the 3 catastrophes that almost destroys the planet is one of the evil gods. If Elka keeps stacking more and more power, that could be her in the future. That's when he remembers she mentioned something about a sacrifice and a last person, and he wonders who it is. He grabs Anne by the arm and brings up what Elka said about sacrifice, about only needing one more person. Maybe it'd be better if they went to the city and stopped that from happening. If she manages to finish this so-called ritual, there's a chance more than one village gets wiped out. Anne looks scared by the idea, saying it's dangerous. And he asks, wait, why does she need one more sacrifice? and Anne says the obvious. Clearly, she has her boyfriend, her husband. Anne is sure the best time to attack is right when the ritual is finished, because while the spirit is adjusting to Elka's body, she'll be weakened. The protagonist says he'll go with Anne, but she refuses. He asks why, and she says it's obvious. The risk is huge, and he shouldn't do something like that for her. But he explains that he has to repay Elka's favor, because when she took care of him, he thought she was genuinely kind. It's probably the spirit corrupting her actions. This guy really sees potential in women, huh? A woman can literally wipe out an entire village in a cult, and he's like, no, I can fix her. Anne says no way. That place is far from the city, and she can't even use her steel control ability properly out there. Even if she gives it everything she's got, she can't guarantee his safety. And she's there holding on to him, begging him to please give this up. This whole mess started because of her, and if he dies like that, she'd never forgive herself. The protagonist stands there awkwardly, then glances to the side and sees a coin. He uses a light spell and finds a treasure stash at the back of the cave. Looks like that's where the local bandits were hiding everything they stole. He grabs a sword and says, well, now they've got metal. And he's got something that isn't as good as the dagger he had, but it still works. He converts all the metal there too, turning it into steel and a bunch of weapons, and says now they're ready. It was time to bring redemption to Elka. From the top of a huge silver pillar, the protagonist watches Elka's blood spirit running around, destroying everything and screaming that she loves Rod. He realizes she's 10 times bigger than before. Yeah, he really messed up agreeing to this. What's he supposed to do? How is he going to deal with a creature like that? But the other option is leaving that thing loose, and that's even worse. So be it. He goes in, and tonight, only one of them walks away alive. He stretches out his arms, calls the creature over, and says he has an announcement to make. Elka asks if he's ready to accept her love. The weirdo opens his arms and jumps down, saying he can't accept it because he's a skydiver. The creature ignores him, fires a blast of blood at him. They rush toward each other, and the protagonist says it's exactly what he expected. We saw earlier that he told Anne, since the creature evolved into a form similar to the Dark God, it can't be killed normally. They needed to find the source of the corruption. Something like a ring, a necklace, an accessory, or a talisman. The rules of that world don't allow power to be projected out of nothing, so something has to exist as a connector, and he needs Anne to clear the way. She asks how. He says he needs her to attack, to keep the creature distracted, while he uses his agility to search for the item. Anne says that even with the metals they found in the cave, she doesn't think she can beat Elka. The protagonist says it's fine. He'll distract Elka, and Anne should be the one attacking. She lands and says no, warning that even if Elka hasn't finished the sacrifice, she's still insanely dangerous. There's no reason for Moon to take that risk. He shushes her, tells her to stay quiet. There are only 2 of them there, and she's stronger, so he'll distract while she attacks. Then out of nowhere, he gets all sentimental. I'm counting on you, the best maid in the family. Anne still looks like she can't believe it, asking how she'll know for sure when it's time to attack. He says it'll be pretty obvious. And now we're back to the fight, right when he's jumping, and a bunch of hands come at him. The pillar behind him was obviously Anne. She breaks apart and triggers a storm of steel spears. The attacks look like they hit dead on, but it's just blood, so it kind of breaks apart. The blood goddess looks forward, and Anne has pushed through, and is already right next to her. She hits her in the belly, right in the navel. Elka asks if the master came back, and Anne just says yes. She came back to save her friend. Next chapter, there's a massive monster with a smaller monster in the middle. Anne moves along the side, coming in from behind at this aggressive angle, pulling that spear, and driving it in. Boom, explosion, smoke. The creature says attacking her with silver is smart since she's an evil spirit. Too bad it does nothing to her, because she's an evil goddess. Suddenly, the protagonist appears beside her, saying he'll try his own attack. Then he swings with the katana, and it actually looks like it cuts something, but the creature absorbs it and laughs. And right then, Anne calls on the Emperor of Steel to activate a power in the protagonist's chest. It looks like it hits clean. Explosion. The ground kicks up, and he's on the floor, completely wrecked. He knows that if it weren't for Anne's defense, he would have died. The problem is the monster is already raising another attack, saying she really was waiting for him, and now it's time for him to accept her love. The strike comes in. Anne warns the young master to be careful, but Elka smacks Anne, away with a backhand, sending her flying. Anne charges back in and attacks, asking how she dares hit the master like that, saying she'll tear her in half. Meanwhile, the protagonist is more unconscious than alive off to the side. Something is there next to him. Suddenly a hand touches him and tells him not to move. It puts a little potion in his mouth. When he looks up, who is it? It's the husband who got messed up. His mouth is torn open. She cut his mouth. What the hell? The protagonist gets up and thanks him, saying if it weren't for that potion, he might have died. Guy introduces himself as Rod, asks the protagonist's name, and Moon tells him. Rod asks what's going on. Moon asks for the story of how Elka became this evil goddess. Rod says he doesn't know when she got cursed, but he knows it's his fault. He should have noticed her intentions sooner, but now it's too late, and her consciousness is completely corrupted. Still, as her husband, he takes responsibility for not letting her stay free. The men in this story are locked in. Seriously, I'd be like, goodbye, wife. Something is wrong with you. You killed the whole village. But the protagonist swears he can count on him. He'll handle it. He just needs to know exactly what is creating the connection to the evil god. Rod says he has no idea. He's never seen anything with a malicious aura like hers. The protagonist says that's impossible. Someone who wiped out a whole village has to have something. Then Rod says that after she performed some rituals, he saw a strange symbol in the middle of her chest. Next chapter, she's screaming that someone has to accept her love, asking why she's always rejected. Moon and Anne had already disappeared, so the only sacrifice left is Anne. Suddenly, someone calls out to Elka. It's her husband. And I'm noticing every line he says has those pauses. I don't think he can even talk properly anymore. That's scary. And he's bringing Moon, saying he brought her a sacrifice. Immediately, she gets all emotional, while Anne is in shock. Anne rushes in, drawing her scythe and telling her to let the young master go. But Elka swings a giant blood hand at her, forcing Anne to raise a metal barrier. Explosion in the forest. Elka tells her not to ruin her romantic moment. She walks up to Rod, saying she knew he always loved her. Not only did he come back alone, he even brought Moon for her. The sacrifice was perfect. He doesn't need to worry. When the goddess of love arrives, everything will go back to how it was, and they'll be together forever. Then her expression changes, and she apologizes, saying she forgot he's still under mind control. But it's fine. When it ends, he'll remove the power. But he answers that she's right. They'll be together forever. He starts crying, saying he ruined her. If he'd realized sooner, she wouldn't be like this. And that's why he'll pay for that sin together with her. Damn, he pulls out the knife with perfect timing, like a clean CS stab. Then we see the protagonist saying the plan is dangerous. She's sneaky and won't be fooled that easily. Rod says that every time she fights, she exposes her real body instead of using the giant one, because she needs her real body's vision to see. Basically, she has to expose herself, and that's what he's betting on. The protagonist praises him, saying he actually analyzed it really well. Rod says of course he used to be a B-rank adventurer. Either way, Rod is the real trap, and he'll create an opening in case something unexpected happens. He swears to the protagonist that if Moon dies today, it'll be after Rod, because Rod dies first. They do that fist bump like two guys who've been enslaved by a wife for a while, though Rod clearly had it way worse, and they're in this together. Back to the moment the knife goes toward Elka's chest. Rod yells for Moon, who comes in from behind, and drives it through. Moon feels something in his hand like he found it, and he yanks out what looks like a talisman. Immediately Elka turns and demands he give it back, reaching for his chest, but nope. We knew that was coming. She stabbed the husband she loves so much, and she even drops her transformation. And of course, he's gonna do the whole I said I'd be with you until the end drama. Man, you're really going to die like this. Suddenly, her eye changes. An energy explosion shoots into the sky, and the protagonist gets thrown into a wall. Confused, he's trying to figure out what's happening. He just ripped out the core, but the pillar of energy in front of him is even bigger, like the ritual still got completed. The taking is made. He tries to use Shadow Step, throwing himself into the chaos at full speed. He grabs Anne by the arm, and tries to pull her back while he's getting pulled too. He tells that monster to stop trying to eat his maid, and seeing the monster coming in for a bite, he says he'll have to rely on luck. He calls on the black book, and asks it for something, but in the next scene, he wakes up in an empty place. He sees the book on top of him and already knows it brought him there. Hey, my friend, is there a way to save me and Anne? Book wobbles like it's saying yes. Then it wobbles in a different way, like it wants him to look up. And he ends up staring straight at the eye of the Lord of the Skies. He's in shock, then recognizes it. The Lord of the Sun's fire, the incinerator, the god of the end of the world, the destroyer of life who brings the apocalypse. My God, how many titles. He grabs the book and demands it explain what's going on. He wanted a way to save Anne, not a way to find another demon. But the eye appears behind him, calls to the human, and he immediately trembles and asks what it is, sir. The creature asks if he wants overwhelming power. The protagonist gets it. This is probably the eye's power. He looks at the book like, is this really going to save Anne? Then he asks what kind of power it is and whether it will cost him something huge. The book starts spinning, and one of its pages moves toward the other god. The creature responds with an angry click of its mouth, and the protagonist doesn't understand why the gods are ignoring him. But the creature says the transaction is complete. It'll lend the boy the power for free if he can actually accept it. The power of a demonic god being used by a demon is always dangerous. The protagonist closes his eyes and says he didn't want to get involved with evil power, but he has no choice, so he accepts everything it has to offer. He isn't afraid of any god. The creature says fine, then they'll proceed with the contract because he seems interesting. But whether he can endure the power or not, that's on him. The creature's palm hits the protagonist, and veins of flame start showing on his skin. He wants to give up, but he screams that he wants to defeat the god. That's what he wants. He won't lose to any evil god, and a blue aura bursts out. We're back outside again with him carrying Anne. The demonic goddess Elka recognizes him, asking if it's him. Just from his little arm, you can already tell the main guy has basically gone full Human Torch. He puts Anne up in the tree and says he'll be right back. Now Elka is turning into this half-human, half-cruel version of herself, huh? Like the real goddess of love. And he fires back that he must be the idiot who's been seducing Elka. The protagonist says that for a god, she seems pretty nervous. The kid has completely changed with this stove flame fire, saying he had to pay a huge price to get this power, and now he'll put an end to her fake love. I thought he was going to suffer in this fight, but in the very next chapter he activates the corrupted flame effect, with the same giant eye appearing on his back, and then a Kamehameha-style blast. Crazy woman gets melted on the spot, totally pulverized, and the protagonist even powers down in shock. Then the demon's voice speaks again, saying it's unbelievable that an insect messed up so many plans. But even though she failed this time, she'll remember the name Moon Campbell. Then it looks like she's fading away and only smoke is left. The protagonist just freezes, saying it would be way better if that goddess could forget his name. Then he calls out for Elka, but there's nothing left of the girl. She's completely charred, but whatever. When the little maid jumps in and hugs him, "Young master, you're alive. I thought I was going to lose you." The protagonist pats her head and says it's okay, while she's trying to understand how he dealt with that evil god. He decides it's better not to say he made a contract with another evil god, so he makes something up. He says he found the core, destroyed it, and that it was teamwork with her and Rod, her husband. But there was still something important Anne had to do. She asks what it is, and the protagonist points at the crazy woman, saying she's about to dissipate, so there isn't much time. The crazy woman asks if her mistress is nearby, and Anne says yes. The crazy woman just says good, everything's over. And Anne comments that at least in the end, the evil god controlling her was eliminated. Then the charcoal lady apologizes for deceiving Anne. The maid asks what she means, and the girl explains that her contamination had nothing to do with meeting Anne that day. Actually, she'd been connected to the evil god for a long time. Rod was too strong, and to keep adventuring at his side, she made those contracts to get stronger, but she ended up losing control. Anne says she wants to know about the day Elka said she loved Rod. What happened? Did she fail? Elka says no, she succeeded. Rod said yes, but they couldn't be together. I'm trying to follow the plot here. Anne asks why they couldn't be together if he said yes. Well, because he'd already gotten another girl on the team pregnant. The guy really built the perfect party. Then Rod told her he'd always liked Elka more, but he never had the courage to confess. But one time he got drunk, the older woman was nearby, and yeah, 1 + 1 = 2. Anne is there with this scorched woman, wanting the gossip, asking, wait, just one time and she got pregnant? You didn't think that was suspicious? Elka, basically just a piece of charcoal telling the story, says yes, she suspected it. That's why she made a contract with the evil god, to find out if it was true that the woman was pregnant. But when she woke up that night, she was already covered in the woman's blood, and the woman's belly was cut open. And then she found out the real truth. The woman didn't actually have a child in her belly. She was faking it just to keep Rod for herself. This story is getting complicated. Anne cries while Elka says love is fragile, that it can break even from a simple lie. And the day Rod found Elka after she killed the other girl, he tried to end her because he thought she'd been taken over by the evil god. That's when everything started. She was fully taken over by the god, and it became irreversible. If she'd had the courage to confess to him, everything would have worked out, but it was already too late. She just hopes Anne finds happiness with the master. And that's it. The big chunk of charcoal turns to dust and rises into the sky. That arc ended with a pretty good plot twist. I liked it. And let's keep it moving. Next chapter, they put that muddy blanket over the two of them, and that's that. Anne says, well, she's fine. The protagonist is fine, so they're ready to move on. They set up Elka's wooden marker, said a prayer, and said goodbye. Now we've got to remember. Moon, you were way out there because you were running from Anne. So what are you going to do now? He looks at her, sees she's kind of sad, and asks what's wrong. She says this incident made her reflect on how the way she loved the young master was wrong. Rationally, she knows it's wrong, but she can't hide her feelings. Is her love bad? The protagonist says she's confusing possessiveness with love. It's related to love, but it's a different feeling, and it's easy to mix them up. She asks if he's saying she doesn't love him, and she's just possessive. And there he is, hand on his chin, acting all intellectual, saying it's hard to be sure. It's complicated to understand what people feel in their hearts. He says that while looking at her, thinking that even for the person feeling it, it's hard to understand. But anyway, he's happy because the day is beautiful. Then Anne calls him and asks about that time in the basement when he said they could be a normal couple. Since he said that was possible, can they start over? The protagonist tells her to give them a second first. Let's go back to the mansion and calm down. But she doesn't stop. She puts her hand on her chest and says she swears she'll always be in the mansion with him, because that's the home where she was born and raised. She doesn't want to become his mistress. She'll always be the maid. But while she serves him, she wants, before she can finish, he grabs her hand and tells her to hurry up and go back. She smiles and says okay. And the protagonist is really happy. With all the incidents out of the way, it looks like he solved everything. Anne, who was the most dangerous Yander, was acting like a normal person now. With her like this, that terrible future doesn't exist anymore. Or actually no. 2 days after he returns to the mansion, no way, he's locked up again. He says as soon as he got there, he ate dinner, his vision went dark, and he woke up there. He wonders if he's time traveling, what's going on. But then he notices he's restrained, but not really. The cuffs are loose. And who shows up? Anne, apologizing and saying she had to keep him waiting. She needed a place where no other girl would interrupt. Here we go. He stands up and says, well, looks like he's not actually locked up. She says of course not. And then she unbuttons the twin dragons and drops the dragon saddle on the floor. And she tells him to remember what he asked for. He starts remembering a time he commented about an outfit he likes. And she's changing out of her sports uniform. And then she does that bunny dance thing, giving him the full one too, asking if he liked it or not. Looks like he really did ask for that. Obviously he liked it, and she sits down next to him. She says after everything that happened, she realized it can't be one-sided, so she wants to win him over. And because of that, today he can do whatever he wants. Chat says the protagonist finally gets to be the one on offense. He's not the only one suffering anymore. And that's basically it. The next chapter was a 10-0. She wakes up all dazed, asking where the guy is. He's gone. She's walking around the house all messy, not knowing where he went. And she suddenly runs into the other innocent maids, who have no idea what this crazy girl does with him in the basement. There are a bunch of cute kittens there. Anne asks what's going on. Noel says Moon went out because he said Anne's physical condition wasn't that great, so they told him to let her sleep. And it looks like Moon also brought these kittens from the market. This kid introduces herself as Winnie, saying she rescues stray cats. She's super happy, showing that Moon paid 200 coins to bring the kittens. Anne's confused, asking if 3 cats at once isn't too much. Noel explains that apparently Winnie convinced him, saying if he wanted to take 1 kitten, he had to take all 4, so he brought them all. Anne asks again where the young master is. Noel says he came back a little while ago, so he should be in his room. And there's the protagonist. What happened to this girl? Seriously. He's in there playing with the toys, making the kittens jump around. Anne runs in, hugs him, and says she's scared he'll disappear like that without telling her. He tells her to relax. He won't leave without saying goodbye. Then she asks why he brought a whole bunch of cats. He says that when they were coming back from Bellin, she mentioned she likes cats, so that's why he brought them. My god cat number 2 is named Mamoru. What the hell? Don't drag me into this. He hands Mamoru to the maid. Let's go. He says he gave Mamoru to her because he has to go to school, and she'll definitely want to go with him. But he checked the rules and knows she won't be allowed. Plus, she has things to handle at the Duke's mansion, so for now the kitten will keep her company. Yeah, let Dad handle it. What am I even saying? I don't think I'm okay in the head. But at night, the protagonist goes to sleep reading the Devil Book, thinking, good, now all I have to do is not provoke any female leads, and I won't get dragged into life or death situations. Peace and quiet. Then someone knocks on the door. It's her, worked up and unable to sleep. He asks what's wrong. She says she can't stop thinking about him going back to school. The guy goes, then relax, come here, lie down with me. She thinks it's time for the daily match, but says, hey, easy. Let's do something else tonight. He lies down holding hands with her and she's confused. This girl won't stop. She really wants to play. She asks if that's enough and he says yes. She needs to understand love isn't only about corners and goals. There are other things that matter too. She hugs him, saying she doesn't want to let him go. He tells her to think of it like a 4-month vacation. He'll be back soon. She says she won't be able to handle it. Yeah, there's no way around it. Back on the soccer field, she says that from this distance, it's really easy to score. The protagonist realizes he won't have a choice, and that's it. Ball in the net. Then the book warns him. The jealousy process has reached 100%, and a fate intervention has been initiated, with part of the memory being corrupted. What's happening? The system basically just tells the protagonist to suffer. I read a comment and I get it now. This story has 7 girls, and each one is a deadly sin. Anne was the sin of jealousy, and now she's hit 100%. So technically, he resolved her. Next chapter starts with Man. I forgot this girl's name. It's been forever since we've seen her. It's the girl who looks like that Genshin Impact archer. What's her name? Amber, right? She's taking a bath, saying that coming back to school a week early is good, because they can enjoy these baths. That Leah girl, the blonde who's probably the sin of gluttony, says that even though school hasn't started, the teachers sleep there, so she can't go bothering them like that. Then out of nowhere, Amber goes at Leah, saying she's been growing a lot, and her hair is getting whiter, like lighter. She asks if it's because she's being watched by the gods, and Leah says yes. So I joked about the sin thing, but she really is growing because of the gods. What god is that? Then Leah comments that her hair is getting really golden, like that person. And Ariel immediately says not to even mention that trash. No matter what happens to Leah, she'll never stop liking her friend. But it's better not to talk about that weirdo, because every time she remembers him, she gets furious. That bastard almost got Cecilia hurt. Leah explains that the accident wasn't only because of him. Looks like this murder had been planned for a long time. And on top of that, Cecilia herself was the one who asked her to heal the boy, so he must have done something right. Considering he had a hole in his heart and lost liters of blood, he really did his best to protect her. Ariel tells her not to go around saying his name, especially not calling him young master. She doesn't deny he's brave, but it's sad that such a powerful duke ended up with such a terrible son. The only thing she'll admit is that he never even had the guts to look her in the eye, but this time, he actually remembered her name. Then she stretches and says she's done with the bath. A little later, they head to the banquet, and we jump ahead 3 days to the entrance of Santa Maria College. The boy shows up in his fancy noble outfit, thinking the place looks incredible. He's already telling himself the one thing he can't do is mess with the female lead or draw too much attention. Either way, he has no idea what life will be like there, so he's curious. All of a sudden, someone's yelling that if the teachers show up, the fun is over, and he immediately wants to know what's going on. Then our Temu version of Amber tells some guy named Iman to stop barking and quit being stupid. This guy has the title of Moon's follower and the Campbell Wolf, and he's saying that someone filthy like Ariel, who's only half noble blood with the other half commoner, doesn't deserve the title of heir. She fires back that she doesn't argue with a dog's tongue. The Lord already accepted her as the heir, so there's no reason for him to run his mouth. But the wolf takes off his glove and says that if that's how it is, he'll show everyone what trash she is. And he challenges her to a duel. Mia doesn't look impressed, if I remember right. In this story, the women are all stronger, so he's basically guaranteed to get wrecked. People around them even feel kind of sorry for Ariel, saying it's always the same thing. The protagonist watches, thinking, well, yeah, this is what a protagonist's life looks like. Always full of challenges. He's just going to sit back, watch, and prepare for the future. Ariel says the guy challenged her 3 times last semester. Apparently, he'd gotten addicted to the taste of losing. He says that he, Eamon, the Campbell Wolf, will personally finish her off. The protagonist freaks out. Campbell Wolf? What is that supposed to mean? Right when Ariel is about to say she accepts, someone suddenly shouts that Moon Campbell is here. Everyone turns toward the protagonist and says he's watching his lackey fight. Was he really the mastermind behind all this? He has no idea why they're dragging him into it. In the blink of an eye, the crowd closes in behind him, and he ends up face to face with Ariel. Some girls off to the side are saying that if he looked at them like that, they'd get pregnant. That girl is not okay. They're saying when a Campbell likes a woman, she'd better run, because otherwise she'll get taken to the mansion. Another one says the last time someone fought with a Campbell, a couple jumped off a building. The protagonist is basically on the verge of tears, wondering why all of this is getting dumped on him. Ariel steps forward and says, so he came to school after all. He's acting the same as always, sending dogs to bite people because he can't do it himself, useless as always. He gives a little laugh and says that's kind of harsh. She says she doesn't care, it suits him perfectly. He starts walking toward her, and everyone thinks the fight of the century is about to happen. He calls her name and suddenly bows, apologizing out of nowhere. Everyone is confused, and even Amon steps in calling out to him like, Why are you bowing to that filthy girl? Then he turns to Ariel and says he'll challenge her maid instead. Moon calls Amon over and asks if someone told him to do that. Amon gets awkward and says no, he's doing it because he wants to. Then the protagonist grabs him, pulls him aside and says, bro, take this money and stop picking fights. I've got important plans. Go apologize to her later. But Amon gets all emotional because Moon called him bro, you know. Ariel is ready to fight, but then everyone bows and apologizes. He tells the rest of the group to disperse. Well, Ariel wants to know what he thinks he's doing. He's thinking, doesn't this make his intentions obvious? The protagonist says he's a new person. He'd rather apologize to her in front of everyone, so it's clear he really changed. She asks if he's serious, and he gets confused, like she thinks he's not being serious. So he bows again. She tells him to stop, saying it's humiliating for her too. Then she gets right in his face and says she remembers that at the last party they went to, he kept staring at Leia's talent, her basketball skills, let's say. He blushes and says something's off. He's about to reveal something important. He puts his hands on her shoulders and says he likes smaller ones. Like he's more into tennis than basketball. He likes the plain ones that fit in one hand. She punches him in the face and tells him to shut up. And she says she knows perfectly well that every girl he bullied until now was more on the basketball team. So now he's coming in with this tennis talk? She's basically forcing herself to keep this conversation normal. He stands up and says he's not joking. He's apologizing sincerely. Then he hands her something and says it's an apology gift. All he wants is a pure friendship with her, clean like water. He wants to eat together someday, just the two of them, so they can put all this behind them. Then he runs off, saying they'll talk later. The idiot takes off, thinking he only apologized because the old Moon Campbell did so many messed up things to her. But whatever, goodbye. They'll never see each other again. He just wants them to be classmates, not enemies. But she's left holding the sausage he bit, furious, and she yells after him again. While she's sprinting like a bullet, he's being watched by a few more girls. And this one is dangerous. She's looking at him and saying he seems interesting. As far as she knows, he's the stupid rich boy, so why not start bullying him? Wow, that's kind of delicious. Then we see two older guys watching from far away, saying it looks like the group finally broke up. The broad-shouldered guy is Plan, the head of the place. The more Gandalf-looking old man is Glenn, one of the teachers. Plan asks what happened, and the teacher explains that it looks like the kid apologized to Ariel and gave her half a sausage as a reward. Plan is shocked. Impossible. As far as he knows, that boy has always been insanely arrogant. He used his noble status and did whatever he wanted at the academy. Plan has no idea what he did last year, and meanwhile, there are two girls running around with their skirts lifted. On top of that, he was always the one humiliating Ariel because she didn't have full noble blood. Glenn says that from the way he saw the boy acting, he seems reformed. But Plan doesn't buy it. No way. If that kid really changes, he'll eat the table in this entire room. Glenn scratches his head and says it seems like Plan really doesn't like the boy. Plan snaps back that the little bastard took a whole year, 365 days, just to learn the most basic magic of all. He was a disaster for the academy. Glenn says if he hates him that much, why not just expel him? Problem solved, just catch him doing something, and that's it. If he doesn't have much magic, he should go train with his father or something. Plan says it's complicated. The problem is the boy never causes one huge incident. He causes lots of small ones all the time. And even if he has no magical talent, his father has power, and his mother is extremely dangerous. Yeah, I agree. Dangerous mom. Miss, what was her name? Noise? It seems like she has connections. She's friends with the queen, so that makes everything worse. Kicking Moon out of the academy could cause a terrible domino effect. Glenn keeps watching, though, and says he's seeing something interesting. The boy was greeting the statue of the first leader. The protagonist looks awkward because you can see a line on the statue's neck. Apparently, he accidentally kicked it once. The head popped off, and now he's apologizing. He asks for a blessing, saying, please let his school life be peaceful, without too many problems. Glenn says that's exemplary behavior. He's never seen a student bow to the statue of the very first headmaster. Gandalf teacher says his friend is going to have to eat that table pretty soon. But Plan walks off, saying it's only been one day. This proves absolutely nothing. And he throws out a saying, it's easier to change mountains and rivers than a person's nature. That boy is just working on some much more twisted plan. Gandalf strokes his beard and says it looks like Plan is going to stay stubborn. But he has a feeling this year's exam is going to be interesting. Scene changes to the dorms. The protagonist gets his room key, thanks the woman, and tells her to have a great day. She turns bright red. Oh my god, he's so different. It was just a little break, and he came back like this. He gets to the room and is impressed. It's way bigger than he expected. It's weird. The place feels familiar and different at the same time. He flops onto the bed, saying it's not as comfortable as the one at home, but it's better than a doghouse. Tomorrow is the opening ceremony, so today he's just going to shower, change, and sleep. He looks in the mirror and realizes he's way more built than he was in his first week in this world. Hard work really pays off. The only thing still messing up his body is that huge scar on his back. He never thought it would stay marked like that. Looks like it's going to be there forever. He can still summon a little bit of that flame that burns everything to ash, but the intensity is much lower. One blow and it disappears, but it's still better than light magic. He smiles and says it's better this way. He doesn't want anything to do with those evil gods, so he doesn't even want to use that power much. The plan is to use the god living inside that black level thing to keep everyone away. But at the same time, he has to admit he needs to learn more magic. He's at the academy, and he has to survive, so it would be good if he actually learned something. He presses the book to his face, and suddenly we're in this training lesson. He says that besides, he can use this to increase his proficiency. And after dying 197 times, he finally reached phase 2. He tells Rod to use every trick he's got. Wait, Rod isn't that guy who died? Obviously. Looks like his spirit stayed in the book to teach him how to fight. Scene switches to the girls' dorm. Ariel asks what's up. Leah wants to know this. Leah has more basketball than brains, seriously. She says she heard the boy went to apologize to Ariel. Ariel says yes, but how are these stories spreading so fast? Obviously his apology freaked her out. Leah's surprised. She thought it was just a fake rumor, and says of course it spread, because everyone saw it this morning too. Then Leah asks if it's true that Ariel and Moon already had a kid together. Ariel freezes. Wait, what did you say? I must have heard wrong. Leah says she'll have to show her a sheet of paper, and then Ariel starts yelling, wanting to know which bastard wrote it. Some rumor that during the break, she met up with Moon and got pregnant by him. Leah says it looks like it was the school newspaper staff, and the girls are spreading it everywhere, saying they were originally a couple, but they broke up and now they're back together because he apologized. Something about Ariel only dumping him because he was involved with 3 girls before her. Ariel tells her to stop all of it and says tomorrow, she's obviously going to that news agency to fix this. She can't let these rumors spread like she's Moon's ex-girlfriend. Leah says not just an ex who had his daughter, and then her friend lunges at her, almost choking her, saying she's going to check Ariel's body to see every place where she gained even a gram of fat. A while later, the poor girl's been through it. She's exhausted, and she's like, well, since my friend isn't really affected by the news, I'll just wait until tomorrow at the ceremony, because she still has to head out to practice some magic and take a shower. So she says goodbye, bye Ariel, good night. Then she collapses on the bed, thinking that now that the black market is gone, she needs to find a new way to make money. How is she supposed to go to school, earn money at the same time, and keep her grades up? It's honestly going to be a rough semester. Worst of all, learning magic is insanely expensive. Every piece of equipment and everything she needs. And on top of all that, now she's stuck with this cursed rumor. So she asks her master if there's any other way to make money besides the black market. She's staring at the ring, saying the disciple is about to starve to death. Like, what is this? Obviously, her teacher is basically a little fireball witch, while our guy has a book and nothing else. Okay, he's got a maid, but still, the book could at least have a physical form. And the master says that now that she's a gold-level mage, there are countless ways to make money. But she has to remember the current situation. It's not that they can't make money, it's that there's nowhere to make money right now. Ariel says the spells she learns from her master make everyone jealous. If she could make scrolls and put those spells into them, it would probably work out. The master says she should start learning some more ordinary spells too. It's not too late, but Ariel refuses, saying she only wants to learn powerful stuff. Because during that mansion mess that day, if she'd warned the Duke earlier, or if she'd been stronger, the problems would have been way smaller. Then, out of nowhere, the master says she knows a way for Ariel to make money that's extremely easy, fast, and convenient. Ariel gets happy immediately, and then the master goes, Moon offered his apology, right? Why don't you accept money, for example? What if he gives you a little million for your forgiveness? That would clearly be worth it. Ariel says, no way, she's not the kind of woman who humiliates herself for money, especially not for a measly million. If he wants her forgiveness, he'll have to prove it for real by completely changing how he acts, which is basically impossible. The master comes in all timid, saying she should think about it more carefully. A million is a million. Ariel says no. The master offers 2. Ariel says she wouldn't take even 10 million. It's about principle. The master gets sad and says, well, that's a shame then. She admits to her disciple that she thought the boy was acting sincerely today. Speaking of him, they finish the book training, and he's exhausted. The next chapter starts with Plan walking around the school, saying that this year they don't have anyone good, because talent comes from hard work, but the place is empty. He met the school's generation of prodigies before he even got there. There were already a bunch of people practicing, and then suddenly Moon runs past him. Plan doesn't think he even caught his face. He's thinking discipline is an essential quality in powerful people. So he calls out, "Hey, you running? Come here, kid." The protagonist comes over. "Oh, hey, Professor Plan." Teacher jumps when he realizes it's Moon Campbell and asks what he's doing there. The protagonist is like, "What do you mean? It's obvious. He's running." He knows it won't help that much, but he likes going for a run, then taking a cold shower, and then he feels pumped for first period. He's at peak productivity. The professor asks if that's really all it is, but the protagonist already turns like, well, since this conversation isn't anything serious, he needs to keep going because he has to run at least 3 kilometers. The professor thinks it's really weird. Something's off. Nobody changes their personality that much over just one vacation. Like the saying goes, when something strange happens, there's a reason. He's going to have to keep a close eye on this kid, since his family is important. Scene cuts to a blonde girl running through the hallways in a panic, saying she's going to be late for the student meeting. The moment she touches the door, someone says she's 5 minutes late. She apologizes to Your Highness, saying she took too long. The girl with glasses answers that she already told her not to call her Your Highness at school. So the blonde says okay, she'll call her president, and she says she's ready. She collected all the information on the new students. If the president needs help with anything else, just say the word. The president comments that her friend has darker circles than usual. She was probably reading that novel again, The Evil Destroyer God Who Fell in Love with Me. She's the type who likes weird novels. And the president says she doesn't like that kind of story, the kind that makes evil stuff feel casual. If she keeps reading that, it'll affect her magic practice. She really should ban the publication of that kind of book. Then she goes to the window, opens it all up, and sunlight hits, showing off her beauty. And she says it looks like spring came early. Her friend says yeah, and starts tidying up the books. Until the president calls her over, tells her to look at that. It was Moon Campbell. Her friend gets mad right away, saying that guy is disgusting. The president asks what happened, and she says apparently the president hasn't heard about the huge thing he did this time. She goes to grab some papers and says she'll show what he caused, and there's a newspaper with a photo of the protagonist apologizing. The president wants to know, so it wasn't anything major? It's just weird that he apologized? But the friend explains the story is what matters. Supposedly Ariel got abandoned by Moon after they had a child. And not only that, he was involved with 13 other people at the same time. The president flicks her on the forehead, saying that's obviously exaggerated. She should read the tiny letters at the bottom. It says the content is speculation and doesn't reflect the real truth of what happened. The friend is smacking the paper against her head, and now she wants to know if they shouldn't punish the news agency for spreading something like that. And the president says they'll have to go there and talk to them to find out why they did it. She's thinking with her eyes half closed that, as the president of Santa Maria, she can't allow that kind of behavior on campus, even if the target of the bullying is that boy who was labeled inferior. Wait, now that I'm noticing it, I'm kind of losing it. She's Cecilia, isn't she? His fiancée in quotes, the ice girl. Or am I tripping? Because she's saying that just apologizing for the past isn't enough for her to acknowledge him. And looking at him, she says she wants to see how he'll meet her expectations. I think it is. Well, we'll see. Now we're in the school auditorium. The girls are all blushing hard, staring at the guy and saying, he looks like an upperclassman. He was the most handsome guy they'd ever seen, with golden hair, and when he smiled they practically fainted. The protagonist is sure those are first-year girls who have no idea about his reputation, so they're smiling naturally. It'd be better for him to go to the right place so he doesn't wreck his image even more. He says that, but off to the side, that psycho Eamon is already yelling, calling him over. Andy sits with them. The guy on the left with glasses is Moon's second follower, named Gru. They're impressed he showed up early. He says he didn't come early because of the new students, because he couldn't leave his brothers alone. The guys suddenly get emotional, crying and saying they'd do anything for him. But Ariel tells all those idiots to shut up. Protagonist's friend is about to chew them out, but he just covers his mouth and apologizes. And a voice up front tells everyone to be quiet. All the teachers and students have arrived, so the ceremony is about to start. The blonde announces Cecilia Leopoldi, the representative of the student union, and she appears. And everyone's like, oh my god, she's amazing. It's Her Highness. She's so beautiful. The protagonist thinks he'd even forgotten that, in the story, she really was the student union president. But he finds it weird how she's staring at him. He closes his eyes. His friends ask if he's feeling okay, what's going on, and he says it's nothing. Cecilia goes up and starts that welcome speech, while the protagonist thinks it sounds a lot like speeches from his past life. One thing's for sure, with her as president, it'd be best for him to draw as little attention as possible, and obviously he should warn Eamon not to do anything stupid either. Suddenly, Cecilia's speech gets interrupted by someone asking if everyone can hear. A big pink bear shows up saying he likes seeing everyone well behaved. He introduces himself as the pink bear, literally, and he's the new principal. Apparently, the other principal got transferred by higher-ups to complete another task, so until she comes back, he'll be acting as principal. If anyone has questions, go ahead. Otherwise, that's it. It's over. Bye. The bear bolts and the protagonist is left kind of confused. He remembers the old principal. No. Why did they replace her with the pink bear? How is that even possible? Moon just wants to know who the hell this pink bear is in the story. Then we see Ariel talking with the bear, asking if they aren't afraid this person will cause trouble. The bear starts taking off the costume, telling Cecilia not to look at him with that hateful face, or he'll get excited and sad at the same time. But she wants to know what happened that made the extraordinary principal of this place leave. The bear says it looks like she went to meet her little sweetheart. Cecilia immediately knows it's some guy named Tachik. Accord, and she turns like, okay, I understand everything now. The bear says she probably has no idea what's actually going on. But Cecilia walks off, thinking that considering the direction of the old principal's research, it was probably something involving the evil gods. I got a bit confused here, but I think this part was meant to be confusing anyway. After the auditorium, the protagonist gets his class list and everything, and realizes there's a ton of stuff. But while he's walking, the girls are all watching him in those miniskirts. And what annoys him is that it's hard to find something that fits, something that matches him, until he sees a 10 a.m. class, Intro to Potion Making. Actually, there are a bunch of intro classes. He wants the basic classes to learn magic, because since he doesn't have much talent, obviously, he has to start basically from zero. He's excited because this class, whether he likes it or not, is going to be the first step toward his magical journey. In 3 years, he'll become a completely different Moon Campbell. Then in the next panel, he's crushed. He has no idea what the woman is talking about in class. Everything she mentions he's never even heard of. He decides to try to get organized somehow, raises his hand and says he has something to ask. The Fundamentals of Magic teacher Fran asks what it is, but she knows he's the school's notorious playboy. He never went to any classes, so what is he doing there? Now it makes sense why all those students are kind of piled up on the other side of the room. But she's also scared because she knows how dangerous the Moon family is, so her career is on the line. Protagonist asks if she's okay and she says yes, then tells him to ask his question. He wants to know why they have to learn this multi-stage course of continuous connection linkages. It's over 100 pages just to start. Where's the earlier content? Where's the beginning part of the book? She says, well, she already taught all of that in the earlier magic grades. Suddenly he's shocked that it's the basics he doesn't know, and everyone's holding back laughter. Moon glares and everyone goes quiet. She adjusts her glasses and says, all right, let's continue class. But he calls her again, startling her. Right away, he says he's going to have to ask her to give him private lessons. If she can accept, he'll even let her set the price. But she turns bright red like private lessons. Instantly, all the girls reach the same conclusion. He came to this class because his target this time is Miss Fran. And the guys are commenting that this is the dude with 13 girlfriends, got another girl pregnant, and now he's going after the teacher. Fran is shaking, saying, no, they can't do something like that. He thinks it's weird and asks, why not? He'll send the money, it's just tutoring. But she has a full-on panic attack and collapses on the floor. He runs over and helps her up, asking what happened. She says that as tempting as the title of Duchess is, a relationship between teacher and student is way too risky. Suddenly, Cecilia walks into the room, saying she's there for a routine inspection. Right away, she finds him there with the teacher clinging to his arm, all red-faced, and she asks what he thinks he's doing. But in the very next moment, it's Fran apologizing, saying she got way too nervous. Cecilia tells her she can go back to class, since there's nothing left to sort out there. So Fran leaves, and that blonde friend comes over and asks if Moon really only wants a proper innocent lesson. He says yes. He didn't learn much because he used to act differently before, and now he wants to find a teacher who can help him learn everything he missed. Cecilia says he disrupted the class and should be punished, but since it was all a misunderstanding, she'll let it slide. Still, he'd better think carefully about how he's been acting. Then she calls for Weir. Now she's finally learned that girl's name and walks off. It sounds like Cecilia also said our guys should go back to first-year classes instead, rather than keep asking this year's teacher for help. But he knows that would be humiliating. He'd basically have to repeat a year, which would be awful. Maybe he's got an idea. What if he takes that black book to the library, absorbs all the content, and tries to learn that way? Honestly, it's a genius plan. So we cut to the Santa Maria bookstore. Someone closes her book and stretches, saying that when it's cold, she just can't focus on reading. But then she glances to the side and asks what she's just discovered. Isn't that the blonde, rich, clueless kid from Miss Cecilia's class? She's bored, and here he comes, so she decides to mess with him a little. Oh my god. So where's this Santa Maria Academy? Because now I'm gonna have to go there and experience this super dangerous place. A little later, the protagonist is slumped over a pile of books, exhausted. He's trying to absorb everything so he can go into the book space and learn there. 5 minutes later, he's got the book on his face, and he suddenly wakes up, saying the method isn't working right. He tried to bring the books into the other world, but it's so dark in there he can't even read. He has to use light magic in that other world, and it's a pain. Another problem is that every time he uses even a tiny bit of magic, Rod attacks, thinking it's time to train. So yeah, he's going to need a teacher, but who? From what Cecilia said, teachers there aren't allowed to offer private lessons. Maybe he could find someone outside the school, but the academy wouldn't allow that person to live there. All he needs is to at least start understanding the basics of magic, and considering how elite this place is, there have to be tons of students. He looks around and sees a girl carrying a bunch of books. The braid, the glasses, all of it, she's basically the perfect model student type. He decides it. She's the target. A strict student like that has to know everything he needs. This girl, Sally, is standing there looking kind of confused because he walked up to greet her, but she immediately startles and asks what he wants. Before he can say anything, she stands up and says she's unfortunately already late for class. He asks to talk, telling her to give him a second. He doesn't have any bad intentions. He just wants her help with something. Then he steps closer and asks if she needs money. He's got a job for her, and if she helps him with some private lessons after class, he can pay a pretty generous amount. What does she think? Obviously, she takes it in a completely different way, already assuming he means a different kind of lesson. And he says she can choose the price he's paying. It's just her. Then out of nowhere, she cuts him off and slaps him, saying money isn't all powerful like that. This is an academy, not some twisted den from his family. She storms off furious while the protagonist stands there totally confused about how his reputation got this wrecked. And then look who shows up, the villain. She asks to be excused and says noises like that aren't allowed in the academy. The protagonist immediately sees on her badge that she's apparently the person in charge around there, named Anicap. He's just thinking she smells unbelievably nice while she asks him to explain what happened. From the way she's talking, she says she thinks Sally misunderstood him. She thought she might have to call a teacher because of it, but it's all settled now. The protagonist keeps explaining, saying he's an innocent guy. He really just wanted someone to tutor him. Because yeah, he's the victim in this story. Then the girl heals him, tells him not to move, and says he's very well behaved. He obeys. What is this? She's treating him like a dog out of nowhere. He's shocked she's using healing magic without any incantation. He's about to ask, but she covers his mouth and tells him he needs to value his body a little more. Without a healthy body, he can't be the school's trash. He asks if she's treating him like this, even knowing his reputation. She says of course, he's basically a celebrity. He doesn't get it. How does she know his reputation and still talk to him normally? Every girl who hears his name runs off like that other one did. Anna says girls are scared of him because he's trash. They think he'll target their bodies and play with their feelings, so they want to stay far away. She steps closer and asks if he really thinks he could fool her. Here we go. Look at him. He's turning red and doesn't even know what to do. But then he suddenly freaks out like, no, something's wrong. This girl has the braid, the glasses, she's the girl from the bookstore. He's feeling the aura of someone who's a master at the love game, and at the same time, he's thinking she's amazing. She keeps getting closer, asking why he's keeping his distance, why he's so shy. She thought he was the legendary playboy, but he's acting weirdly innocent. He looks away and says it's just a rumor. And she casually lifts her fingers, saying she was curious to see who the playboy was that scared off half the girls, but apparently it's nothing special. Actually, he's just a well-behaved little baby. She's roasting him now. He's not letting that slide. He clears his throat and says, fine, even if he's never had an official girlfriend and looks innocent. She has no idea there's a beast behind all that. He can't just stand there while she talks like that. Then out of nowhere, he flicks his own face. He's standing there confused, and she tells him everything she just said was a lie. She's never had a boyfriend either. He says she's a wicked girl, and she laughs and says yes. She's an evil, heartless woman. He crosses his arms and says at first he didn't think she was that kind of person, because when he was looking through the books, they all had tons of notes. It was probably her who did all that, right? She says yes. She only wrote those explanations because she was bored. He says that means she's actually a kind woman. She makes a face like she doesn't love that description and asks if that really describes her. He says yes. She took care of him even with his bad reputation, and she still wrote those cute little explanations. Plus, he noticed she's using magic to isolate the sound so they won't bother everyone in the bookstore. All of that proves she's kind. She says it's rare for someone to call her that. He asks what people call her. Then she says she'll tell him. But suddenly, she stops, grabs his face, and tells him to cut it out with that little trick. But since he tried so hard, she'll tell him. Everyone says she's a snake, so by any chance is he scared? He says no. Actually, he kind of likes it because snakes eat rats, and he doesn't like rats. She puts a hand on his head and says she knows perfectly well. He's only being nice because he wants her to teach him. He says, well, she figured out his intentions, so he'll offer $1 million. If that's not enough, he'll even write a letter to his family asking for more. She keeps the same smile and says he's being naive. Even if he hired the best tutors for 3 years, it would cost less than that. Is he really going to pay that much? He says knowledge is the most valuable thing there is, and he's offering that because he knows she works at the bookstore, has read everything there, and on top of that, she's obviously academically strong. He tells her to just name the price. She stands up and says he's being too nice, so she won't charge him for now. He asks how he's supposed to pay. Then she says he'll owe her that money. He thinks it's weird. Why can't he just give her the money? But she says eventually she'll ask for something, and when she does, he can't refuse. He doesn't know what it'll be, but he says fine, he accepts. Right away, she grabs his hand and says this isn't a good place to learn, so they're going somewhere else. Then it switches to the old potions club. He thinks it's kind of strange. He didn't see anything about it. She says that's normal because that club belongs only to her. Then she lets her hair down and says now she doesn't have to feel awkward. And yeah, he fell for it. It's that girl from the rooftop who said she was going to bully him. She says he stepped into her territory. The protagonist is still unlucky, still red in the face. And the villain touches his face and asks why he's so shy, why he's so red. He awkwardly asks how a club can exist if she's the only one in it. She says this is the club's last year. Since they don't have members, it's going to be shut down, but until then, she'll be there alone. It's really sad being alone in the cold. So does he want to join the club? Just the two of them. And somehow he's walking around all happy, saying he doesn't know what happens in the club, but he'll learn the basics of magic, and that's enough. Until suddenly the magic communicator announces that Student Moon Campbell should report to the Student Association room. He doesn't really get it, but he already assumes it's not going to be good. Now we're face to face with Cecilia, which feels even more serious. Because when her follower isn't around, it usually means something important. And on top of that, ever since he arrived, she's just been drinking tea without saying anything. So what's going on? Feeling awkward, he's about to say something. She taps her cup on the table. She apologizes for calling him there, but says she has to get straight to the point. What does he think about the incident that happened recently? He's confused, wondering if she means the moment he got slapped in the library. He pretends he doesn't know anything. He was studying all afternoon, so if something happened, she can go ahead and tell him. She looks a bit puzzled and asks if that's true, and he starts saying he would never do anything to a girl in broad daylight. He was focused on his studies, and if he sees someone doing that, he'll punch them. But then she asks when. He ever said it was a girl who got bullied. She puts a sheet of paper on the table and tells him to take a look. It looks like it's about an underwear thief, a boy, something like that. Cecilia says that since he's in the boys' dorm, maybe he has some information. Still confused, the protagonist says he thought they were stealing women's underwear, but they're stealing men's. She just says it looks like a similar incident happened last semester. But if he has no idea, then fine, he can go. What does he want to drink? He should know she doesn't have black tea. He says anything is fine, and she makes him some coffee. He adds sugar, and notices she likes things really sweet. He smells his coffee, thinking that from now on he's going to carry sweets in his pocket. If he ever has a problem with her, he'll just hand one over, and that's it. Then she suddenly apologizes, and he flinches. She explains that she kicked him out of the classroom that morning because she thought he was causing trouble. He says it's fine. He was in Ms. Fran's class, so he should already know the material. But she keeps apologizing, saying she was wrong this time, and there's another reason she called him there. She asks if he wants to join the student council. He thinks that's weird. Him, with the reputation he has? She says that's exactly why. Since he has such a bad reputation, it might be a good way to change it. He's honest. He says he heard student council members get a lot of benefits, and normally only the top 20 can be selected. So why is he getting special treatment? She says whether he's excellent or not doesn't matter. What matters to her is that he has a heart that will become excellent. He answers saying, yeah, he has a heart, but that has nothing to do with what they're talking about. Then he starts trashing himself, saying he's the guy who couldn't accomplish anything and only causes trouble. Everyone thinks he's garbage, and he's the school's rich kid. He doesn't even know the bare minimum of magic. He's yelling, going off about a bunch of stuff, saying she's going to stain her reputation by choosing him. She shouldn't let his existence affect her. Like, come on. You were apologizing a second ago, dude. She coughs and says, fine, forget it then. It was an invitation, not an order. If he doesn't want to join, then drop it. The protagonist thanks her and says he's out, and she just sits there with tea on her thighs, thinking that apparently he was worried about affecting her. He really had changed. But we all know the obvious, right? No way he wants to be part of that. He's outside thanking the heavens he managed to get away. Student council definitely means more trouble, and it's not something he wants. He's just a useless villain with a bit of money and a powerful family, nothing else. That's the image he has to keep up. But then someone calls him, and he sees Gru and Emma behind him. Eamon immediately asks if the student council people treated him okay. He says, yeah, he's fine, what's up? They say they were walking around the school, heard his name being called, and got worried. The protagonist doesn't really get it. They tell him about the old student council president, the tyrannical second prince, who used to beat everyone up. Anyone called to that class would disappear. Gru says he knows Cecilia is in charge now, but he still thought it could be dangerous. If Moon got captured by them, the consequences would be unimaginable. The protagonist smiles and says, so if I got captured, you guys would challenge the student council? That'd be dangerous. His friends get awkward, but the protagonist is genuinely moved. He thought they were bad guys, but naturally, they were loyal, almost too good to be true. Then he thinks, for safety, he needs to confirm something. He calls both of them and tells them to talk somewhere else, at their secret base. So they head to some abandoned place. Moon finds out Eamon's father was a war buddy of his father, and that's why Eamon follows him. Eamon explains that, well, he wasn't really a buddy, more like a subordinate. But everyone agrees the great Duke, Moon's father, taught Eamon's father a lot, and it looks like he even saved his life more than once in the Northern Territory. That's why when Eamon entered the academy, his father told him to help Moon with anything he could. The protagonist says he gets it, but what about Gru? Why does he follow him? He won't get mad, but is it just for money? Gru says that considering Moon's personality, he knows Moon won't remember, but it's because of the bathroom. The protagonist has no idea what he means by the bathroom. So Gru explains that he comes from a poor family in a small town. He got into the academy because of magical tools he made with alchemy, which caught a professor's attention. But because he was poor, ugly, and weird, he became everyone's target. Until one day, while he was getting beaten up, Moon suddenly opened the door and asked what all that noise was in the bathroom. Everyone froze, and Moon told them all to get out. Then the protagonist stops at the door, looks back and says those guys are the worst. They bully the weak but are scared of the strong. That's even more shameful than getting bullied. So next time anything happens to him, he should just say he's a friend of Moon Campbell. Gru says that from that day on, he decided to follow him. The protagonist thinks, honestly, those are two pretty solid reasons to follow him. He says, now that that's cleared up, he's going to talk about future plans. He doesn't want to leave anyone who follows him behind. For now, he's learned Iman has strong magical combat ability. He should focus all his time on studying and practicing that. He should come every day so they can keep training as partners, both in martial arts and magic. And for Gru, he hands him a card with 500,000 emirs. The kid is shocked, asking why. The protagonist says that since he's a student specializing in magical tools, he needs money. Also, if he finds other people with lots of free time who are exceptionally talented and hardworking, he should send them to talk to Moon. The two of them start commenting on everything he's asking. What is he trying to do? Build an organization to gather talented people and take down the student council? The protagonist says no, they're not getting it. What's their ultimate goal in life? Gru says, I don't know, steal some fries? But the protagonist puts a hand on both their shoulders and says no. Where do they see themselves 3 or 5 years after graduation? They start thinking, well, technically, he's going to marry Cecilia and become part of the empire. Maybe he wants to build a loyal force around him while he's still a student. The protagonist knows that even if his plan to stop Ariel from messing up his life works, he'll still run into problems later. And the more talented people he meets, the more they'll help. So the goal is to make as many friends and allies as possible, and as few enemies as possible. He's going to be known as the school's investor, and he's laughing there all smug. Now his friends come to the conclusion that Moon didn't change at all, only his ambitions did. They never imagined his goal was to control the entire country. Moon asks what they think his goal is. They tell him not to worry. From now on, they won't tell anyone, and they won't reveal it even if they're at the guillotine. The protagonist is kind of freaked out, asking what they're talking about with guillotines. Then Eamon says Moon can count on him. His talent is average compared to his father's, but he won't disappoint Moon. Gru says Moon can count on him too, Not only will he study magical instruments, he'll also learn economics to help manage the empire. They're already imagining it. Like that chubby guy, this awesome picture with the other one in armor, saying they'll be the emperor's left and right hands. The protagonist is like, "Emperor?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's right." Well, okay, what matters is having ambition. His friends tell Moon he doesn't need to hide it. He wants to put Iman in charge of the army and Gru in charge of managing all the Empire's talent. The protagonist still can't understand what they think is happening. He can't even do basic energy magic. He can't even understand the classes. So what are they talking about? An empire. The goal was just to keep them close so they wouldn't cause trouble. But now, with these huge goals, that could create other problems. But their intentions seemed good, and he didn't want to shut it down. So he says, "Alright, let's go. Let's get something to eat." Scene changes to a restaurant. Some maids are eating. When Weir suddenly comes in saying something huge happened, Cecilia asks why she's so anxious. She didn't even knock. Weir explains they've got trouble with the campus newspaper again. They're spreading nonsense. Cecilia thinks it's strange and asks if she didn't go there today. Her friend says she did, but no one was there. She left a message under the door, but it looks like they didn't check it. Then she sees the paper about the protagonist and Fran, with a headline saying he's now dissatisfied with older girls and changed his taste. It says he not only showed interest in her, he even invited her to a private exercise session after class. Cecilia stands up immediately and says, she'll finish this later. Scene changes to Ariel slamming the table, calling for someone named Mingode, asking what the hell they're saying about her being a pregnant ex-girlfriend. The green-haired guy, probably Mingode, says it's no big deal, just everyday news. Besides, he always puts a tiny little line underneath explaining that it could be speculation. She says clearly nobody can read that tiny text. But he says he has more important things to do, so he doesn't have time to argue with her. If possible, Miss Ariel could stop bothering him. She warns him he'd better publish another issue apologizing. Or else he asks what she's going to do, fight him. She should know, first of all, it's impossible for any news to be taken down, and if she wants to challenge him, he accepts. Also, he wants to thank Ariel. Actually, thanks to that story with the blonde kid, the paper is selling more than ever. How about he publishes a new piece saying she's trying to change the truth and, for example, threatened him. She's furious, saying that's dirty. Right then, both of them look to the side, and Cecilia walks into the room. The guy starts shaking. Ariel asks what she's doing there, and Cecilia immediately says Mingote knows exactly why. He jumps and asks if it's because of what he thinks it is. He warns her he can't be punished. None of the articles broke school rules or imperial laws. Cecilia just sits down and says she'll get straight to the point. He's been ignoring student council warnings and running stories without verified information. It's been ruining innocent people's reputations. The guy is completely frozen, and she asks if Mingode Raymond really wants to die. Yeah, did you think she was going to use the law? She's going to kill you. Next chapter, the protagonist finds out martial combat class is happening. And seriously, look at the kid's back. It's getting huge. What is that? Now we move to the Santa Maria training area. Like he expected, in physical combat class, most people are men. But Ariel is there too. She's confused, wondering what Moon is doing there. Then a buff older guy shows up and says, "Good, everyone's here. Same rules as always. First class of the semester is going to be a bunch of duels." He wants to see what each of them learned during the break. Everyone cheers. Apparently it's what they like most. The teacher warns that if he finds out anyone got worse, they'll pay double. In front of the box, he draws the first numbers, 9 and 1. The protagonist realizes he's number 1, meaning he has to fight first. But as long as it's not Ariel, it's fine. When he turns around, there's number 9, this huge jacked guy. The protagonist is confused, wondering if that's someone's dad. No way that's a student. But it is. His name is Rain, and he's a second year. The protagonist starts, "Oh, it's you, you're the..." And the guy cuts him off, saying he knows who Moon Campbell is. "Well, I'm Rain." The protagonist, a little awkward, goes, "Oh, okay, cool." They greet each other, and Moon asks him to go easy. Ariel, on the other hand, is pissed. She wanted to go first to show her talent. Meanwhile, everyone off to the side is making bets. His friends say it's ridiculous. Who bets on an obvious fight like this? Obviously, Moon is going to get wrecked, since he never really participates in class. But the guy says today's bet isn't about who wins, it's about how many minutes Moon lasts. Ariel looks excited and says, "Master, we can make money and still watch that idiot get beaten up." But the ring-wearing witch says she doesn't know Moon's true strength. But she's sure he's different from my semester. Clearly, he improved somehow. She thinks for a moment, and calls out that she wants to bet 200 emirs that Moon will last 10 minutes. She's confident that even if he advanced to rank 2, there's no way he can beat Rain. But he's not total trash either, so it should be enough. She's already counting the money, saying this week she's eating chicken every day. Rain, standing by the weapons, thinks Moon Campbell. That's the name the priest mentioned before. To think the Lord hates this kid so much, and he's this skinny and weak, really unexpected. Since his breathing seems pretty calm, it's better to end this fast by breaking his rhythm. So now they're in the arena, facing each other. Rain pulls out a sword like the boozes. The protagonist grabs 2 daggers, and Rain asks why he's using something so small. Moon says a sword is heavy, obviously too much for him, so daggers are fine, more than enough. Rain sighs. Fine, if that's your choice, let's go. But Moon tells him to wait a second and asks if Rain trained a long time to get those muscles. Rain says of course, he's been training since he was a kid. Out of nowhere, Moon provokes him, saying he knows a little muscle attracts women, but a lot of muscle attracts men, and that it's actually true. Then he asks if any girl has ever liked Rain. Looks like Moon is the king of rage bait and we had no idea. And the guy just stands there, boiling with anger, trying to figure out how the hell this bastard knows that. Either way, he's starting to understand why the Lord wants this guy dead, and he's not letting him walk out alive. He was just some young master, not a real warrior. Stuff has happened in these training matches where people ended up dying. While the guy is stuck on that thought, the protagonist is smiling to himself, thinking, idiot. He's totally stressed. Now his aura has spread through his whole body, he lost focus. It really was rage bait. The instructor tells them to get ready. He signals the start, and the guy already has his aura concentrated. But then, dude, the protagonist activates Shadow Step, and his swagger shoots through the roof. The guy thrusts his sword out, thinking he's going to kill the protagonist in one slash. But the protagonist is already past him and behind his back. In a blink of an eye, Moon is standing back there. The guy is down on one knee, and the whole class is stunned, and the guy's clothes are completely shredded, and Moon is declared the winner. Everyone's sitting there like, hold on, something went seriously wrong here. And Ariel's ring says, not only is he fast, he's got great flexibility too, even if his strength isn't anything crazy. Ariel isn't responding, and the teacher wants to know why she's gone quiet. She's devastated because she lost her 200 emirs. She bet everything, and now she's broke for the week. All of a sudden, the protagonist calls out to Rain. When Rain turns around, the protagonist is holding a bag of money. He explains there are 500 emirs in there to pay for the clothes he cut up, and the part where he said Rain isn't popular with girls wasn't to clown on him. It was just to make him angry and throw him off at the start of the fight. 'Cause honestly, from his point of view, those muscles Rain built through hard work are impressive. He genuinely thinks Rain's body shows his discipline, and he's sure Rain will eventually meet a girl who appreciates that and becomes his girlfriend. The protagonist walks off thinking, whew, I humiliated him, but I paid him and said what he wanted to hear. Problem solved. Except it's not solved. Rain is furious. Because this damn noble who has everything he wants in life thinks he understands Rain's suffering. Scene shifts to later. The protagonist calls Anna to class, but the protagonist shows up already blushing. She's there holding a little stick, refining medicine in a cauldron, and the protagonist, kind of awkward, says maybe those clothes aren't the best for class. She explains it's the pajamas she slept in. She studied all night and just came like that. Did he like it? What does he think? He gives her a thumbs up and says yes. Then he comments that the medicine smells really good and asks what she's making. She explains that she only makes nice-smelling stuff down here. If it stank, she'd do it upstairs. But she's going to let it bubble for a while, so let's go to class. She wants to teach, and the guy is trying to stay focused. Looks like it went on for a while, because a lot of time passes, and he's about to head back to the dorm. But when he stands up, she tells him to stay right there because she wants to ask him a favor. He asks what it is, and she says it's related to that potion, the one whose smell he liked. He asks if she wants him to learn about potions, and she says not exactly. But since he's part of the club, he needs to understand the activities. She shows him the books on the table, transcribed materials from ancient languages, and she's trying to reconstruct as much as possible from these 3 ancient potions. The protagonist gets it, so that's why it's called the Ancient Potions Club. Makes perfect sense. But he asks, if you don't even know what this potion does, are you sure I can drink it? She says she's not 100% sure, but testing potions is part of being in the club, and based on the ingredients, it seems like a body alteration potion. Maybe he'll turn into a cat or a dog for a short time, but it won't hurt him. Last time she drank it, nothing happened, so she wants to see if it affects other people differently. He's going to be a good boy and help her, right? The protagonist hesitates, saying the last time he drank a potion, it caused a massive problem. Let's just say he has a psychological defense that really doesn't want him doing this. Anna says she's starting to get it. He doesn't want to help her, but he wants to study for free. Is that it? She tells him to calm down and says for him to sit on her lap. He does. He sits there and asks what's going on. She tells him to relax, closes her eyes, and asks if he likes the taste of fruit and peaches. When he goes to answer and opens his mouth, she sticks a funnel in and pours the potion down. The protagonist tries to get away, but uh-oh, her foot shoots forward and pins his neck, and he's getting crushed. Top 10 tortures happening to my boy. Tries to resist, but it's too late. He says he already drank it all. He tells her she's really mean for forcing him like that, and she says she already warned him she was a bad woman. But now let's focus on the potion. What is he feeling? He says, well, he doesn't feel anything. She says it looks like the potion is a total failure. But that's pretty common when she tries to make these ancient potions. She messes up, and the effect ends up being nothing. Since she's been stirring the cauldron all day, she's exhausted, so she's going to rest a bit. If possible, could he close the door when he leaves? She curls up there, and the protagonist puts his cloak over her and says it's fine. He wishes her goodnight and says he's heading out. The chances of that potion doing nothing are basically zero. Scene changes to the principal's office, with him pissed off, demanding to know why they're shutting down the third shield. And it's the pink bear saying the third shield is unnecessary. They're spending way too much money and need to cut costs. Just keeping the defenses, they leave active costs a fifth of everything they earn, and that's a waste. Plan asks what his intentions are. Why is he acting like this? Pink Bear says it doesn't matter. He's in charge now, and the decision has been made. But Plan keeps pushing, saying that third defense was important for all the students. What happens if their safety is put at risk? Pink Bear says Plan should have realized it already. He thinks Pink Bear was sent to this school to act as principal. He'll make it crystal clear since Plan isn't getting it. The way the higher-ups handle the academy is going to change. They can't stand this polite teaching style anymore. Plan, confused, asks what he's talking about. There are only kids there. Pink Bear says Plan must have forgotten that he also studied at Santa Maria Academy. And back then, dozens of students died every year. That's why they were called the Golden Generation, and today they're the foundation of the entire empire. The truth is, this peaceful life was corrupting the students. Plan says they don't need to move that fast. They can change the curriculum. There's no need to be so extreme. Pink Bear explains that was the original plan. They'd let the students prepare, and only then shut down the third barrier. But for some reason he doesn't even fully understand. They said it needs to be done urgently. Who knows why? Plan sees Pink Bear showing him something and asks what it is. And then he sees the tacit agreement. Okay, so apparently that's something used to make an oath. Plan says he hopes this won't disappoint him. Then he swears he'll never reveal what they're talking about to anyone. He hands it to Pink Bear, who says it's actually pretty simple. The evil god is causing trouble again, and he's not talking about those filthy cultists. He means the master behind them all. Plan asks if he means the god personally showed up and who exactly it was. Pink Bear says it's not just one. Actually, he'll draw it so Plan can see. Then he draws the corrupted god and the moon of silence. It looks like both are helping each other, and Plan says something's off. Those two gods normally avoided contact with each other. Pink Bear agrees and says he thinks, in reality, those gods are fighting each other, and whoever wins will end up with way too much power. Basically, a war of gods is about to start. Plan gets it. Wait, the war of gods is about to start, and that's why you shut down the shield? Pink Bear explains that the higher-ups said this war will probably affect the entire world, and the only way to prepare is for the students to get used to this kind of combat now. Besides, they'll still have the second and first barriers, which is perfect for doing an internal purge. Plan asks what he means by that, and Pink Bear says it's obvious. There are spies inside the school, and tonight probably won't be peaceful. Plan immediately asks if he's saying the cultists are going to invade the academy tonight, and Pink Bear says yes. But it also feels like Pink Bear kind of wants it to happen, like it's training for the students. The principal says it's insane. Everyone's asleep, and the cultists' first attack is going to be like this. Pink Bear says if there's one place where everyone should be prepared, it's the academy, where the best in the world study. Looks like the attack really is going to happen. Pink Bear doesn't care at all. Scene changes to the girls' dorm, where Cecilia receives a letter from the principal. Actually, it's from the bear, saying there will be an enemy attack tonight, and everyone in the student council has to protect the school. Then the scene shifts to a forgotten cave at the altar of the true god of love. There are guys yelling, saying to burn this heretic to death. A man is tied to a post, and someone steps forward, telling everyone to be quiet. The first doctrine of true love is that only the same sex is true love, and the opposite sex is heresy. The leader says not only did the guy help an 80-year-old woman carry a basin of vegetables, but he's been milking his own cows instead of having a woman do it. What is this? It's like a red pill cult, but literal. So apparently you can only help your friends and you can't interact. Like, I don't get it. The guy is crying, saying he has nothing else to say. They tell them to light the fire, and the guy actually gets burned. What the hell? The leader cries while Everyone says he had bad luck. The white-haired one says heretics need to burn along with all their sins. What are these people on? The purple-haired one says, High Priest, the execution is finished. Then the guy raises the book and says he has an important announcement for everyone. He tells the king to step forward. Wait, isn't that King Rain? The one who is fighting alongside the protagonist. Then he says the god of love sent him an oracle. The holy war has begun. The source of all that evil lives at Santa Maria Academy. But they never had a chance because of the barriers. But they have information that the barrier has disappeared, and the king who has access to the place will lead them all into the glorious war. Tonight, they'll attack that place and kill the person who had the nerve to harm their lord. This is the weirdest gay cult I've ever seen. Even the guys who seem to be organizing the attack are asking, do you really think it's a good idea to let these lunatics attack the academy? The person in the back just says they hope everything goes smoothly. Back at Santa Maria Academy, there are tons of people running around. While the protagonist is collapsed on his bed, he's feeling this weird heat. Then he realizes it's raining on his face. When he wakes up, he's staring at a giant moon. Something is speaking, saying everything about me was false from the beginning. My appearance, identity, and voice were lies from start to finish. And what I did to you was just a bit of personal entertainment before death arrived. The little giant demon blasts him in the back, saying he's nothing but a puppy that wags its head, an existence she plays with and does whatever she wants with. But even when she humiliated him on purpose, he still stayed by her side. He really doesn't abandon her, and she doesn't understand those human emotions. But the day he said it didn't matter if she was human or a monster, that he wouldn't leave her, she was genuinely happy. And then after saying that, she stabs him in the back, saying that's the best way she can show her love. Since she can't change her fate, all she can do is swallow his heart. And together, they'll dive into that moon. What the hell just happened? The protagonist wakes up. My god, what is going on here? Because in the next panel, we're seeing a blonde girl in Moon's pajamas. He's saying something about being soaked and leaving the book for later. He needs to take a shower before he catches a cold, but then he stops in front of the mirror and sees he's turned into a gigantic girl. Wait, I'm not getting it. Is the person wondering if it's really him? Then they look at the glass and say, I never imagined the young master had hair like this, all curly, or that he'd be such a cute girl. These things here are big and heavy. They're like huge water balloons, so big they almost look fake. I'm still not sure if the one inside the body is the protagonist or that woman's spirit. Maybe it's him, because he's remembering the medicine he got from the senior. Yeah, looks like it's him. He figured it out. The potion didn't work on her because she was already a girl, so it was useless. Okay, he worked out the cause and effect. The problem is that now, holy crap, he's huge. Get out of here, Moon, for the love of God. Seriously, what is this, dude? He knows the biggest issue is that he's in the boys' dorm, and he can't walk out looking like this. The problem is, he also has no idea where Anna lives. She's the only one who probably has a solution for this, or would at least understand what's going on with him. He's already thinking it's simple. Maybe just call Amun, slip a letter under the door asking her for help, and that's it. He's super calm, brushing his hair and having fun. The kid doesn't realize it, let me tell you. Right at that moment, there's an explosion, and when he opens the door, cultists are there. Next chapter, he gets thrown onto the bed and asked who they are. The purple-haired guy asks his friend, where's Moon Campbell? Wasn't he supposed to be here? The masked one says, well, dorm 52-6, it's this one. At that moment, Moon realizes he's the target. The good part, an actual plus, is that these cult people are basically forbidden from interacting with women. He got lucky there. And the guy is thinking, got it, Moon was some rich pretty boy, so this must be his girlfriend. Then he points the scythe at her and says, if she doesn't want to get beheaded, she better tell them where Moon went. Moon lies, saying that actually he's Moon's cousin, and he's only in that dorm because his own isn't ready yet. He has to stay with his cousin for a while and doesn't know anything. The guy says perfect. Since he's a cousin, they'll capture him, and that way Moon will show up. So now there's chaos at the academy, brawls between students and the invaders. The pink bear says they're responding pretty fast. The school isn't as useless as he thought. Director Martial wants to know, if they were going to do something this risky, why didn't they warn them earlier? Big Bear tells him to relax. They're just some weird cultists. Think of it like training. Cecilia alone can handle it. He looks back and says, there's no way 17 powerful directors like them haven't produced people who can deal with this. Then he says, alright, that's enough. He's going back to his beauty sleep. Bye. Rector Martial wants to know how they can let this guy mess around with the students' lives, because Plan answers that he wishes he could push back, but this came from higher-ups. Then suddenly someone yells for Moon Campbell. The busty protagonist is there getting dragged along, and the cultists announce that he'd better show up. They've got someone very important to him. so he should come out instead of hiding like a coward. The protagonist is just thinking he's screwed now. He's not going to show up. He's literally right there. Maybe he should have fought back. For a second, he thought it was some school prank. He didn't imagine the place would get invaded out of nowhere. But right then, one of the cultists gets hit straight in the stomach. It's Ariel with Leah taking everyone down, furious and demanding to know who these cultists are. Then suddenly her expression changes, and she takes off running. Weirdly, she's running because she never expected something like this. A blonde girl so well endowed with such a sweet, gentle aura. The beautiful girl could just wait. She was going to save her now. Meanwhile, there's another woman whipping everybody. It's Anna, saying she didn't think the potion would have such a strong effect. In the student council room, they're watching everything, and the girl says it's insane. They really took a girl hostage. Cecilia orders them to gather some of the student council's elite members and rescue everyone. Weir says okay, but what is Cecilia going to do? Cecilia says she has something important to deal with. As soon as Weir leaves, Cecilia asks when they're going to attack her. They've been hiding for half an hour, and she's starting to get impatient. Then something comes at her. The scene shifts to ice spreading across the room. Someone says they didn't expect to be found out so early. Cecilia says she didn't think two different gods would attack the academy at the same time. The evil god and the silent moon. Is he there to kill her? The guy holding the lantern says yes, she needs to die before she masters divine power. Cecilia warns that they made a huge mistake by sending only one person. It's honestly boring, and today he isn't leaving that room alive. Outside, the student council members are wrecking the red pill guys. Everyone is celebrating, it's clearly easy. And Weir is saying the goal is to rescue that poor girl who got kidnapped. The protagonist is emotional, begging those student council bastards to give it everything they've got and get him out of there already. The purple-haired guy tells the leader that half their members are already gone, and still no Moon Campbell. The leader says fine, then they'll cut off this woman's hand, and if he still doesn't show up, they'll cut off her legs. Then Moon gets shoved forward. They stretch his arms out, and they say now he's going to learn what happens when he ignores their orders. The leader is about to strike, and the protagonist says they're going way too far, but then Ariel shows up and lands a hit on the boss. He manages to block it, but it knocks the huge moon backward. Ariel tells the beautiful girl not to give up and not to be afraid. Ariel Bugard is there to save her. Weirdly, it's obvious she's trying to flirt with the blonde protagonist. One of the leaders says she really must be one of the most skilled people in that school, but the weakest person in their group is rank 3, so she doesn't stand a chance. Ariel says they're a bunch of freaks and they deserve a beating for hitting such a young, adorable girl. The guy gives the orders. She gets ready, and the protagonist watches all of it. He's impressed that Ariel is using 3 elements at the same time. Then he slips the lock that was holding his arm. Looks like he could have freed himself at any time. And then, all of a sudden, 5 guys come rushing the protagonist, telling him to like this video.